Story 1. Syl demanded that I pay the bill for her bachelorette trip, but she threw a fit when I refused. Now her wedding is cancelled, her fiancé left her, and she is blaming me. My sister-in-law, Steffi, 26F, and I have a lot of history together because we went to high school together. She was kind of a huge bully, and I just so happened to be one of her favorite targets because why not? I was a total nerd in high school, and my appearance certainly did not help my case because I was very skinny and I had braces, which was pretty much the bane of my existence. I was literally the typical nerdy girl in a teenage high school movie where they only get ready after they take their glasses off, except that instead of glasses, I had to get my braces taken off. Unfortunately, my transformation did not happen until I was in college. Thankfully, I look much better now because I have gained a lot of weight and I got my braces taken off before I started college. Not that there's anything wrong with the way I looked before, but right now I am just a lot less prone to getting bullied by people, that's all. Anyway, I met my husband, Andy, at a college party a couple of years ago when I was in my 3rd year of college. He was 3 years older than me and was the DJ there. That used to be his part-time job before. I guess it was meant to be because I got really drunk at that party, and he offered to drive me home because my apartment was really far away, and nobody was ready to take me home since I was absolutely wasted. He was nice enough to take me home and even scribbled his phone number on the back of my hand and told me that I could call him because he liked me. The next day, I woke up with a terrible hangover, but I knew that I had found a really special guy. I called him and asked him out on a date, and that was it. We connected really well on the very first date, and I knew that I had found the one. But the only issue was his sister. He was telling me about his family on the very first date, and we had made the connection instantly because we were talking about our families. He told me that he had a sister named Steffi. Then, when I joked about how I had a bully in high school with the same name, he told me with a very serious face that it might have been his sister because she did have a few behavioral problems when she was in school. Then he told me the name of the high school that she attended, and we realized that his sister was actually my high school bully. It was kind of awkward, but I was not going to let that get in the way of whatever we had. So I told him that it was no big deal because I liked him and not his sister, so she had nothing to do with any of this, and he agreed. After dating for 3 months, we decided that we were going to introduce each other to our families. While it was relatively easy for me to introduce him to my family, it was kind of difficult and awkward for him because he knew that his sister and I did not have the best relationship. The first time that I had dinner with his family, I was very nervous, mostly because of Steffi, but it actually didn't go that badly. His parents were really warm and kind to me, and Steffi was kind of cold and aloof, but that was still better than the way that she used to treat me back in high school. I actually preferred this new version of hers because this was much less trouble to deal with. So she didn't talk to me much and kept our interaction to a minimum, but I counted that as a win because this meant that I would not have to talk to her, and we could just ignore each other and let it go. I am quite fortunate because that is how things have been with us for the past couple of years, and I have not had to interact with her much, and neither has she expressed any interest in becoming friends with me. Even when Andy and I got married 2 years ago, she only spoke to me as much was required of her, and that was it. So I would say that she and I are not close at all, and both of us prefer it to be that way because after the way that she treated me in high school, I don't think I would want to be friends with somebody like her anyway. It's not like Andy has a problem with this either because he is well aware of how mean his sister is capable of being, so he does not mind the fact that the two of us don't talk. He knows that I have not forgiven her for the way she ruined my high school life because she has never shown me that she is sorry, so I can't exactly forgive somebody who is not even sorry, and he understands that and respects it. But he and Steffi have a normal sibling relationship like most other people do, and I don't mind it because I know that he does not see Steffi the same way that I see her, and I am completely fine with that. It has also been a really long time since high school ended, and I don't want to tell my husband not to talk to his sister and create drama out of nothing because she and I are civil now, and that's all that is necessary. So everything is good in the family, and I got used to it. Honestly, it came as a massive shock to me when a few weeks ago, Steffi reached out to me to ask me if I would be willing to accompany her on her bachelorette trip to the Greek islands. She did not just ask me casually on the phone. She actually invited me over for lunch. Even though I was skeptical about it at first, Andy was the one who told me to give it a chance, so I went out to lunch with her. That's where she asked me. She was really nice to me during that lunch, and even afterward, She finally apologized and addressed the history that we had together instead of pretending like it was non-existent. It was quite shocking for me because I had never expected Steffi to own up to the fact that she had bullied me relentlessly when we were together in high school. When it finally happened, I had absolutely no idea how to react to it. She told me that she was sorry about the way that she had treated me back then and told me that she was just being a total brat and she realized her mistake way too late. She also mentioned that the reason she had never addressed it, even after I started dating her brother, was because she felt awkward bringing up things from the past and did not know how to face me after everything that she had put me through back when we were teenagers. While talking about all these things, she even threw in some tears to make it seem very genuine, and I, being the gullible, emotional fool that I am, fell for all of it hook, line, and sinker. I told her that I forgave her and that it was all in the past anyway because now I did not have any issues with her since we were all adults here, and we could deal with it like we were meant to and just have a couple of drinks together and forget about it. She seemed happy about it, and we ended that lunch on a good note. She asked me to come with her and join her and her friends on their bachelorette trip to the islands because she wanted to make up for lost time and really make me feel like I was her friend. Initially, I was kind of hesitant to agree to it, but she really talked me into it, and eventually I just agreed because I thought that it would be a fun experience and it would really help me build a relationship with Steffi because I was sick of having tension with her anytime we were in the same room. So after a lot of deliberation, I decided to say yes because I was willing to move on from the past and give our relationship a new and fresh start. And there was no better way to do it than to go on a trip and just let our hair down. That was a couple of weeks ago, and after that, Steffi and I remained in touch. She was getting married next month, and we were going to leave for the trip at the beginning of this week, but it did not happen because of a little stunt that she decided to pull. At the airport, she thought that she could trick me into paying for the entire trip by springing the news on me at the airport so that I would not be able to back out. But little did she know that I had absolutely no qualms about ditching them and going back home because, unlike her, I did not care about what her friends thought of me or even what she thought of me, if I'm being very honest. We got there about an hour before our flight was scheduled to leave, and we were all just chatting. But then Steffi said that she wanted to get coffee and asked me to come with her, so I did. When we were at the counter, she told me really casually, "Oh, by the way, I hope that all your cards work internationally because otherwise you will have a really difficult time paying for stuff." So I told her that I was going to be carrying cash for all the souvenirs and knickknacks that I wanted to buy. Then she told me that she meant more like the hotel rooms and food that we were going to eat and even the flight tickets because I would have to reimburse her for all of that. I did not know what she was talking about because we had not discussed this before that point in time, and half an hour before our flight was supposed to take off was really not the right time for this discussion. She was telling me all of this in a really casual tone, so I asked her if she expected me to pay for myself throughout this entire trip. And then she told me, "Not just yourself, but for everybody on the trip, all of my friends and I thought you were going to be paying for this entire thing and sponsoring it, which is why I picked such an expensive destination since I know that you can afford it. Is that going to be a problem?" I still remember the exact words that she said, and I can even hear it in the tone because she was saying it like it was the most obvious thing in the world, even though we had never discussed it and I had never agreed to any of it. I asked her if she was serious, and she told me that she had obviously expected me to pay for all this, and she would be forced to think of me as a really stingy miser because I was the person with the biggest paycheck that she knew of, and she could not think of one single reason why I would say no to sponsoring the trip. I could come up with more than a couple of reasons. The first being that I never agreed to any of this, and she never even asked me if I would be okay with it, so I don't understand why she would assume something like this. And even though it was true that I earn more than most people that she knew since I am the VP of a moderately large-scale firm, I still did not think that it was an obligation for me to sponsor her trip, especially because we were still building a relationship. We were not at that point yet. And I was definitely not going to even consider paying for a holiday for a bunch of women that I didn't even know. More importantly, this is my money and my choice, so she could think of me as a miser or a stingy person, but it would not matter to me because I was not going to spend an exorbitant amount of money on a trip that I did not even organize and on a bunch of people that I didn't even know or like. So after a while of just standing there while she was getting coffee, I decided to walk back to where everybody was sitting, grab my stuff, and just leave because this was ridiculous, and I did not want to create a scene in a public space, so I decided to leave quietly. Steffi chased after me with her coffee, and even her friends tried to ask me what was wrong, but I did not think that it was important to tell them anything, so I just walked out of the airport and got into the first cab that I could find before they got to me. As soon as I was in the cab, I decided to block Steffi so that she would not be able to contact me and annoy me. The next thing that I did was that I called Andy up to let him know what had happened. I actually felt pretty bad for him because he had been very excited about the fact that his sister and I were finally getting along together, and I thought that this trip was going to improve our relationship, but clearly both of us had been very wrong about everything. When I called him and told him what Steffi had tried to do, he was even more outraged than I was and told me that this was unacceptable behavior and he was going to call his parents up immediately and talk to them about it. I guess he was far more disappointed in his sister's behavior than I had been because I already knew that she was a terrible person, and I was not very surprised at this turn of events. But I think maybe Andy and his parents had been expecting a little more from her, and she had really let them down, and I think that is what really screwed things up for her after that call because once they knew what she had tried to pull, they were all incredibly pissed. Andy did not speak to her directly, but I could tell that he was not going to let this go because it was pretty insulting to me, and he was really just disappointed with his sister. Once I came back home from the airport, he told me that I did not need to speak to Steffi anymore, but I did not have to be told twice since I did not want anything to do with her anyway. I did not hear from anybody from his family for the rest of the day, not even his parents, but I knew that he was on the phone with them on and off throughout the day. Tempers were running high that day, so I chose not to talk to anybody about it because I knew that everybody was already feeling upset about things, and I did not want to add to it, so I just kept quiet and waited for the storm to subside. 2 days passed and nothing happened, but I did speak to my in-laws during that time, and they told me how sorry they were about the way that Steffi had treated me. But I told them it was no big deal because it wasn't exactly their fault. I had seen the way that they had raised their son, so I knew that the parenting was not the problem, and if there was anybody to blame for how Steffi turned out, then it was just herself. Andy and I were also back to normal pretty quickly after that. I did not ask him about any of the consequences that Steffi would have to face for her actions because I was just not interested in any of that. All I knew was that I did not have to interact with her anymore, and that was enough for me. But then after 2 days of the incident, I got to know that the wedding was canceled and her fiancé had left her, and that was an indirect consequence of what she had done to me. When Andy and I came back home from work that day, he told me that Steffi was blaming our family for breaking up her and her fiancé, and I was really confused as to how that was even logical because we had not spoken to her after that incident at the airport. However, apparently this had actually happened because after that incident, once Andy had told his parents what Steffi had tried to do at the airport, they had called her up and told her to apologize to me. But she did not even think that she had done anything wrong and instead started telling her parents that I was rude and stingy, and she was glad that I left. So her parents got really upset, and they told her that they would no longer be paying for the wedding, and she could find somebody else to fund her extravagant event. Now she tried to make it seem like she did not care, but it would be huge trouble for her to cover all the expenses of the wedding herself since she had just quit her job and started her own business a couple of months ago, and they had not broken even yet, so paying for everything herself was out of the question. In spite of knowing that, she tried to make it seem like she did not care about any of it because she did not want to apologize to me or even acknowledge that she screwed up. The day of the wedding is just a few weeks away since it's literally just next month. So this is a bit of an emergency situation for her right now. From what Andy told me after that conversation with her parents, she decided to talk to her fiancé and let him know that her parents would no longer be covering the expenses for the wedding, so she expected him to take over, and I think that's what led to a huge fight between the two of them because it was obviously really unfair of her to kind of just spring it on him with barely a few weeks to go for the wedding. So they got into a fight, and that's how the wedding got canceled. Once I knew the whole story from Andy, I asked him how he got to know about all of this, and he told me that after the fight with her fiancé, Steffi showed up at their parents' house and fought with them as well and had been blaming them and me for what happened. She had mostly just been blaming me, which I think is really unfair because I didn't even have anything to do with this situation. She said that because of me, first she had to cancel her trip with her friends because I refused to pay up, and now she was going to have to cancel her entire wedding, and her fiancé was probably going to break up with her because she did not see any other way out of this. The trip thing I do not agree with in the slightest because there had been absolutely no discussion about me paying for anything, so it was stupid of her to expect anything from me, but I do feel kind of bad that her wedding is getting canceled. I feel like I should not have complained to my husband and been so up in arms about the whole thing. I guess I just feel kind of sad for her because I know that she was really looking forward to getting married. I'm just here for reassurance, if I'm being very honest. Am I the jerk for complaining to my husband when my sister-in-law told me that she expected me to sponsor her bachelorette trip for all of her friends at the airport? Date 1. Hi, first and foremost, thank you so much for letting me know that I am indeed not the one at fault here. I think I really needed to hear that. I had been feeling really terrible about everything, and it did not help that Steffi had been posting sad things about getting betrayed and stuff. It has been 5 days since the airport incident, and even though I have her blocked everywhere, I know for a fact that she has been posting weird sad quotes for attention, and when anybody asks her about it, she tells them her side of the story and pretends to be the victim. So any remorse that I had about her wedding getting cancelled is all gone now because clearly she will stop at nothing to make me look like the villain in her story, and I don't need to feel bad for her. She has even gone to the extent of telling people that while she had expected me to stab her in the back, she did not think that her brother would ever encourage me or tolerate something like this, but she was obviously wrong and her brother couldn't care less about her feelings. Again, I feel like I need to emphasize that she had literally never ever asked me if I was comfortable or willing to pay for the expenses of the trip for her and all of her friends, so the fact that she had to cancel it at the very last minute and come back from the airport was her own fault. But somehow, in her version of the story, apparently we had had this discussion several times, but I flipped at the airport and decided to throw a fit and leave, which was a huge slap on the face for her because then she and all her friends had to go back home, and the trip didn't even happen, and it was really humiliating. It's infuriating the way that she has been spreading these lies about me, but I'm actually happy that most of the relatives that she has been telling this to have reached out to me to ask about it because it seemed really out of character for me, and I was able to clear the air and tell them my side of things, and for the most part people have believed me, so whatever she is trying to do is not working, and she is coming off as a total liar and an idiot. Andy told me that he wanted to speak to her and tell her that she can't just go around lying about us, but I told him that he did not need to say a word to her because the things that she is doing are backfiring, and instead of damaging our reputation, she is just doing it to herself, so we can just let her carry on. Update 2. So it has been around 2 weeks since we learned that Steffi would no longer be getting married. She had been talking crap about us to all of her relatives, but it did not work because most people did not trust what she was saying and came to me to confirm the story, and I told them the truth. After a few days, pretty much everybody knew the truth, so there was no point in her trying to make us look like the bad guys, so she stopped. We thought that it would be the end of the story, but apparently not because now she has moved in with her parents since, unfortunately, she and her fiancé have broken up and she has nowhere else to go. Her fiancé was a decent guy and had offered to let her have the apartment and he could move out, but she would not be able to cover the rent on her own, and so she chose to move out and live with her parents instead. Andy, and I think it's really ironic that she had so much to say back when her parents had told her that they would not be funding her wedding, and she had pretended like she had everything sorted, but now her life was falling apart, and the only people that she could turn to were her parents. My in-laws were also nice enough to take her in, even after all the nasty behavior from her. But now that she is living with them, I guess she should have had the common sense not to go on talking crap about me and Andy, at least in front of her parents because they were Andy's parents as well. But she really is one of the stupidest people I have ever come across because even after my in-laws made it clear to her that she was not allowed to talk crap about us and pretend like we were the bad guys, she went on doing so in front of them and would constantly try to turn them against us. So my in-laws decided to tell her that she could either accept her mistake and try to become a better person, or they would not allow her to live with them anymore. And that obviously pissed her off because now she has taken to messaging Andy and reminding him every day that I did not just ruin her bachelorette trip and her wedding, but now I also ruined her life because her fiancé dumped her and her parents only keep siding with me, as if any of that is my fault. He has not blocked her yet because she is family, but she is on thin ice right now, and a couple of more texts against me, and I am pretty sure that Andy is going to show up at his parents' house and teach her a lesson in person. I'm pretty sure that she is just doing this to rile us up or vent her frustrations, but it's unacceptable. Update 3. So we did it. Andy and I really just could not take it anymore because she was really taking things too far and saying the most horrible things about me while messaging Andy. She even expected to get away with it because she thought that we would not actively try to get back at her, but unfortunately for her, we are not that nice. She had called me every name in the book and referred to me as jealous and insecure and had even said that I did not look any better than I did back in high school, which was just a straight-up lie. She knows that I am very touchy about my appearance and makes it a point to pick on it every time that she can, and it has become very apparent at this point. I also don't even understand why she thinks that I would be jealous of her because right now my life is a lot better than hers, and she literally has nothing that I would be jealous or insecure of. But anyway, these were the things that she had been texting Andy in an attempt to make us mad, and she succeeded in doing so because earlier this evening, we went to my in-laws' house and confronted her because she needed to stop believing that she could say and do absolutely whatever she wanted to, and then we would just allow her to get away with it all the time. We had already spoken to Andy's parents, and they knew what we were here for, so they did not ask many questions and just let us in. Steffi had been sitting in the living room, and she seemed very surprised to see us and actually had the audacity to ask her parents why we were there, as if we were not supposed to be there, like she was the only person allowed to visit her parents. They did not answer, and instead, I took over the conversation and told her that she needed to learn how to keep her mouth shut because I had had enough of her BS, and I was not going to tolerate her running her mouth about me anymore. So she needed to stop talking about me to anyone at all, and if she did not do so, then I would make sure that my side of the story went public as well, and that would not end up well for her. She immediately started throwing a fit and accused me of blackmailing her and her family of ambushing her. When she was asked to stay quiet and just apologize for everything, she told us that she would not do that and started packing her things and left within an hour because now she knew that she was not welcome here and was going to live with a friend. I am positive that she will be back in a couple of weeks because I don't think any friend will allow her to live with them free of cost, and judging by how much of a miser she is, I highly doubt that she will cough up anything when she can go back to her parents and live with them for free. But as of now, we're all free of her, and I would say that I am much better off right now, and I think that everybody would agree with me when I say that. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Is it really wrong for me to break up with my GF because she humiliated me in front of her friends? Hi all, throw away because both she and I lurk Reddit. I, 23M, have been with C, 23F, for 4 years. We got together during our freshman year of college. We became very close, and we both held similar beliefs and wanted similar things out of life. We moved in with each other and grew really close, almost inseparable, during the pandemic. I wanted to marry this woman until last night. C has been under more stress from work and family during the last few months. Her dad has cancer, and it hasn't been easy on her. She's been drinking more and more, and while I don't mind her drinking, it's how she gets when she's drunk is where I begin to have issues. She has a tendency to get pretty mean and say some awful things, talking about my appearance or how small my member is. She makes me feel like I'm not enough for her, sexually or emotionally. She is almost always apologetic the next morning and will spend the next few days after trying to fix things, but will turn around and do it again when she drinks. It really came to a head last night when I took her and her friend out to a local bar that's popular. I volunteered to be their DD for the night. She's driven drunk before, and I didn't want her to make that choice again. I told her that I didn't want her to drink too much tonight, and she agreed that she wouldn't. The bar was packed when we got there, so we all went and sat at the bar and ordered some food and drinks. They were enjoying themselves, and I watched the game while they drank and enjoyed themselves. I got up and went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I noticed my girlfriend was getting loud and her friend screamed, "Sleeve," while laughing. She then said, as I walked up and was in earshot, that her ex was the biggest she had and she missed it. I pretended not to hear it because I knew she was getting drunk. I touched her back and sat down at the bar again before the guy sitting at the table grabs both our attention and asks us if I was the sleeve guy. I immediately felt like I was going to be sick. These guys are laughing at me, and I asked C if she was serious. She kept laughing, so I just grabbed my keys and walked out. I left both her and her friend there at the bar and I drove home. I immediately packed up my essential stuff and I went to stay with a close friend for a few days. I didn't get any texts from C until about an hour after I left them there, asking where I was. I then got a bunch of missed calls and texts that weren't anything but angry. I answered one call and she was still slurring her words, and I heard she was in the bar still, so I hung up and turned off my ringer. I woke up to a stream of apology texts and more missed phone calls. She apologized and said she messed up and was wondering when I was coming home, that I satisfy her and that I'm more than enough for her, that she'll make this right if I come home. I'm just done. I feel humiliated and embarrassed. Her and I had what I thought was a good sexual relationship. We did foreplay and used toys, but I've never once not gone out of my way to pleasure her or get her off. I'm not the biggest guy down there, so yeah, I use a sleeve to help her get off too. I just didn't think she would use that against me like that. I don't want to go back home. I love her, But I feel really humiliated and like she doesn't respect me as a man or partner. What if I broke up with her over this? She's been a perfect partner otherwise. I just feel like she didn't respect me at all. And after what she said about her ex, I can't help but suspect things. Edit 1. I'm going to text C back and tell her that I'll be there tomorrow to talk and get the rest of my things. My supportive friend said I don't have to worry about a place to stay for right now. She's always been one of my closest friends, so it feels good to have some support right now. Thank you everyone for your advice. I plan on ending things with C. My friend and her brother are going as well to make sure things don't go crazy. I don't know what C might do at this point. Update. Is it really wrong for me to break up with my GF because she humiliated me in front of her friends? I posted about my now ex-GF humiliating me at a packed bar, revealing to drunk strangers that I use a sleeve for her. I got to say that I wasn't expecting the amount of support and advice all of you gave. It really helped me look at everything from an outside perspective, and I realized how awful the relationship C and I had. Thank you everyone for your kind words. It really helped me find the strength to end things. Some of you are concerned that my friend E might be trying to take advantage of my situation and me. I can assure you that she's definitely not that way. I've known E since we were kids, but I understand where the concern was coming from. I didn't reveal this in the OG post, but E is also my ex from when we were in HS. We dated for a year, but we broke up to remain friends, and she later came out to me that year. She's dated only women ever since then. Anyway, here's the update. I drove back to our apartment to get my stuff and my cat the next morning. E came with me. I told E to wait in the car and I would text her when I needed help with things. I walked in the apartment, and C was sitting on the couch crying. She saw me and ran over to hug me. She immediately started apologizing. She said she was sorry and that she knew she messed up, that her friend told her what she said. I asked her if she cheated on me. She immediately said no and offered up access to everything of hers. I told her that's not what I wanted. She told me that she didn't mean what she said, that I'm more than enough for her, and she only knows she said the thing about her ex because her friend told her. She said that definitely wasn't true, that she didn't miss him at all, and I'm the man she wants to marry. I told her that how she humiliated me was something I just can't get over, that her addiction and how she treats me when she's intoxicated has decimated any romantic feelings I've had. She said she understood and that she was sorry for everything. The pain in her voice, I knew she was remorseful. I told her that I needed to go and be myself for a while, that even though I still love her because we spent years together with many positive memories, she needs help and I can't continue on like this. She was crying the entire time. I gave her a hug and I told her that I hope we can reconnect one day, but that she needs to work on herself and clean herself up for herself and only her, not for anyone else. I texted E and I told C that E was letting me crash and that she's been supportive. C was surprisingly really calm and mature about this, but I can tell she was devastated. I felt really bad about it all. I told C that I'll pay the last 2 months' rent on our lease, then it's on her to find a new place or to renew the lease herself. I know it's more than some of you think she deserves, but I still care about her. We spent years together and just a week ago, I wanted to spend my life with her. E thought it was a good idea in her words, so she knows even more what she lost in me. I don't mind, I already budgeted for it anyway. We got back to E's and I honestly felt free. I went to block C's number, and I saw she sent me some texts, not trying to fight for me back, but just saying how I helped her and saying that she was sorry for everything. She said that she's going to take my advice and that she wishes the best for me. I did screenshot the text, but I deleted the message itself. He said that we should celebrate, and she made us some Bloody Marys. Her brother, who is one of my buddies, brought some beer over. We turned on some music and spent time drinking and talking about memories we had. He left and took an Uber home. E and I began to talk about more personal things. She was way drunker than me, and she kissed me. I was into it for a few seconds before my brain took over from my other head, and I pushed her away. I told her she's too drunk and she doesn't know what she's doing. I helped her get to bed and I crashed on the couch. I honestly felt bad. I didn't want her to feel like I rejected her, but also I thought she wasn't into men. My drunk mind was processing so much stuff. I barely slept. I woke up to my cat jumping on me, and E was making bacon in the kitchen. Before I even opened my mouth, she said that she was sorry about last night, that she knew better, and that she didn't mean to make me uncomfortable. I told her she didn't and that I only stopped it because she was drunk. I also asked why she kissed me if she was gay and wasn't into men. She started laughing and she said she's not gay. She said she's pan. I had to Google it honestly. We kissed again in the kitchen, and we went out to dinner that night. I paid for it to thank her. Then things actually got spicy when we got back that night. It was honestly the best I've felt in bed in a long time. It was a little awkward at first since she hasn't been with a guy in years. But it was amazing. I think she was just stroking my ego. But she said it was the best she's had in years with anyone. My confidence is through the roof right now. We're sitting here drinking beer. I'm typing this before giving her a back rub, and she's playing Genshin Impact. I'm definitely an idiot, but we also definitely have a thing now. We agreed to just keep it quiet for a few months, and she agreed. Thank you again, everyone, for your advice and your help. I definitely made the right call. I'll keep updating you all if anything interesting happens with C. But everything is smooth sailing right now with E and I. You all helped me more than you know. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Crazy Bridezilla body-shamed me and treated me like her personal ATM while lying and manipulating my own brother with a fake pregnancy. So I exposed it and canceled the wedding. Look, my brother M38 Aaron is super smart book-wise, but can be a fool when it comes to affairs of the heart. I am not mad at him about this and I don't want to hurt him. But Heather, F27, is a Sith Lord of a woman, powerful, manipulative, and ugly underneath her masks. It sucks more because I introduced them. Heather and I, F32, met playing D&D and we stayed in touch after that group disbanded. She met Aaron at my birthday party, and they dated in secret for a year before telling me and our mutual friends. They got engaged at my next birthday party, and he asked me to be his best woman, a female best man, because he and I have always been incredibly close. Heather frowned at him and said that was ridiculous, and I obviously should be her maid of honor since we're friends and a female and woman go on the bride's side. The moment became awkward, and I told them I'm happy to stand for them on either side because, at the end of the day, it's about them as a couple, not the individuals, and whatever they wanted worked. I'm an idiot. I can list in great detail all the disturbances in the force that should have told me she was far more trouble than she was worth, even if she were encrusted in diamonds. But my brother had been deliriously happy, and I rolled a 1 on insight, I guess. The short list of problems was that Heather assumed the maid of honor is also the wedding planner, point of contact to the bride, free makeup artist, and pays for the bridesmaids' dresses and the bachelorette party. I compromised by committing to doing the makeup for free. I did modeling in my 20s and know how to make do. I helped plan the wedding with her and my brother but could not financially pay for the dresses she wanted. I would pay for mine but not the others and the party. So I offered to do one, and she picked the dresses, the more expensive, and I paid it without complaint. She had all the bridesmaids, except for me, pay for the whole bachelorette trip, even those who couldn't come, but blasted me in the group chat about it, like apologizing for the cost of the trip since OP's not financially contributing, which led to the girls asking me how and why I ended up not paying anything. Things like that kept happening. I am going to pause here and say my brother is a senior staff engineer at a huge tech company and teaches programming at a huge school, so he makes plenty of money. When I asked my brother why he wasn't helping pay for stuff at the wedding, he looked incredibly puzzled and asked what I meant. I immediately shut up, realizing I stepped in it, and he said Heather insisted she pay for her half of the wedding, and they joint pay the joint parts, cake, venue, etc., to say to her haters she's not marrying him for his money. I know I am the a-hole for stepping in that one. I admit there's more, but I don't want this to be a novel, so I will jump to the part one might be morally off for. I hosted the bridesmaids and Heather at a planning party she wanted, and we sat working on odds and ends and drinking lots of wine. When one of the girls, Amber F20, asked if she could change her hair color. Her own wedding is coming up, and she got a long waitlisted spot with a salon on her wish list to dye her hair, and she wanted to go red. For a note, I am black and use weave to shade and style my hair in crimson red twists. Amber said she would want about my shade and that it complemented my skin tone. Heather chuckled a bit at that, and I kind of looked at her like, what? And she said that it was fine and she's no bridezilla, but she would prefer only one of us look that tacky. I felt hurt, as Heather knew me before I went red years ago and back then told me how great I looked and that I glowed. And now I'm tacky. I asked her if she meant it that way, and she shrugged and said, "It's about the people, not how good they look." She said I didn't get it, and the other girls started chiming in, and Heather just said, "Oh my God, calm down. I didn't mean anything wrong. I won't let OP ruin my wedding entirely. It's really okay. We all are going to start looking different in our 30s, etc." I was the oldest of all the girls there, and I kind of chuckled it away and said Heather was the one who gives me compliments on how much I still look young and like I did when I did fashion modeling. Nothing big, just commercials and small local runways, as it once was my dream to be like on Victoria's Secret or whatever, a-hole, and she snorted something like, "You can't do runway now and you know it." Okay, at this point, I flat out asked her if she had something to say to me, and she said that since I had been so sensitive about her asking me to do things, be wedding planner, paying for the party, etc. For her wedding, she didn't want to bring it up, but she wanted me to change my look back to when you were so pretty, like when we met. That meant going back to my natural light brown hair, losing weight. I am 5 feet 7 inches and 120 pounds, and wearing shapewear to fit in a smaller dress. Then she said, "Look at these lovely ladies, right? It would mean a lot to me if you all could shine up there." I said it was hurtful and I liked how I look now. I had lots of body issues trying for that dream in my 20s and skipped meals, drank too much and worse and hated my body. Now I do have curves, and I love them. I offered to wear a wig for the wedding if my hair color was an issue, and she just got quiet and changed the subject to keep from everyone watching me get upset. I just shook the wine bottle and laughed something about it getting empty and saying I was going to the kitchen to get a fresh bottle. Heather was there after a couple minutes and started saying, "Hey, you know I love you no matter how you look, babe." And I just shot, "But I look tacky." And she shrugged and said, "That's why she didn't want to ask me. She knew I wouldn't focus on anything other than perceived slights." I handed her the new wine bottle to bring in, and I stepped outside to calm down. Still on my mind. The wedding is this summer, and I am kicking myself for being sensitive. It's messing with my head now. I can't even dream of standing up in front of everyone we all know in a bright dress. The MOH dress is a different color and cut than the other bridesmaids. The way I am, but a part of me thinks I'm letting her under my skin and should not worry about how I look. I don't want to be MOH regardless, though. What if I step down? I don't even know what I would tell my brother. Sorry for the nerdy references. It's a coping mechanism. Edit. Couple of FAQs and things I didn't think to add. My brother has a prenup. It wasn't really a trust thing, but he just figured it would be there for them to point at and rough up rumors that she is with him for money, and I am told she enthusiastically agreed. She does not have a full-time job. She works retail and does some theater work. In my job as an actor, she lives with her sister and sister's spouse in the city, as she is in school. She took a few years gap from high school to college. Her sister is kind of how we met, as she is part of my gaming group. I do not work in software, nor do I make a lot of money compared to my brother. I am single and live alone and make okay money in nonprofit theater to survive. Aaron and I don't have any other family. We've been each other's family after I came out as bisexual and our grandfather disowned me. Aaron went no contact out of support for me. We are also not biological siblings, as Aaron is adopted and I am a miracle baby. Our dad walked out when I was a kid, and our mom passed away when I was a teen. Date 1. I tried to write this update on my original post, but it got too long, so sorry, but I am a bit emotional and at this point, tipsy. I immediately got comments saying this similar thing, that I would be the odd one to not tell my brother the truth. It was devastating, and I admit some of the comments were worded in a way that really hurt, but at the end of the day I was asked if I was okay with Aaron marrying a person who will hurt him, and something in my brain clicked. I love my brother more than anything, and I realized now I was being spineless and selfish to not come to him with this from the beginning. From me being MOH, Heather monopolized my time. I can pinpoint exact moments I was slowly pushed out of regular contact with Aaron. If I was not working or doing my side gigs, all my time was on the phone with her or footing the bill at dinners and lunches with her over the wedding. Someone mentioned that she was trying to keep me and Aaron from spending time, and I realized they were right. Anytime I called him and she was there, she would take the phone to talk wedding stuff, etc. I would be so worn out at the end of my days I wouldn't even reply to texts. I feel so stupid. I was a coward and so afraid of losing my only family. I forgot to be family to him, and that's hard to even type. But it's true. Aaron called me early. Apparently a bridesmaid who was at my house the night I mentioned in my last post. Sophia F26, who is one of our good friends, apparently suggested he reach out to me. And when he asked why, she did say I didn't realize, but I have been miserable since that party at my house. I didn't know how much I seemed off. It was brought to my attention how far out I seemed in public and how withdrawn I've been in general. Aaron called and asked if I was all right. I know the wedding is stressful. Heather has been a wreck. And I snapped and just started crying and hung up. He was at my place within the hour, and I told him everything. I don't remember seeing him so mad in my life. I am skipping a bunch to be brief. He asked me how much I spent on the wedding, and I just handed him my phone with my bank app and the bridesmaid chat all open, and he scrolled and asked me why I would not mention this to him. I explained, and he shook his head. He wrapped me in a hug and told me not to worry and ordered us food. After he left, Sophia texted me and Aaron in a new group chat with the three of us some recordings from when she was making TikToks and the like in various bridesmaid events with Heather in the background and nothing more. I saw it. Indicated Aaron saw it, but he hasn't said anything yet other than, I will use a fake name for myself as I have the others. Francesca, turn off your phone if you can. I will drop by tonight. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and am on my couch drinking and waiting. Update 2. Quick random update. I am a bottle of wine in, and so forgive my dyslexia. I am doom scrolling Reddit and Facebook, and Heather has blocked me on Facebook and through an app for my texts. I can see she's texted many times. I have opened nothing and won't until Aaron arrives. In the meantime, I am truly in good tears over your support and advice. I was never a strong person. That was our mom, but you and my friends make me feel strong, and I cannot express my gratitude. I will update when I can, but it may be tomorrow as I am passing the line of tipsy into more than tipsy. LOL. But seriously, thank you all so much. Update 3. My Venmo popped up, and Heather's sister, Haley, just sent me money. No description on it, just a bright emoji. Also, Aaron says he is on the way. As I am on Facebook, I am seeing more of the girls in the bridal party in different chats having issues with Heather. I am more of an Insta/Twitter gal, so never even saw it. I am messaging them back now. Editing in to say I'm trying to post the update but having issues, may have to make it 2 separate posts. Date for star date. The next morning. Y'all encouraged my nerdy side, sorry LOL. Happy weekend, everyone. I was shook at how much my notifications blew up, more than the Death Star. Bear with me as I soar through everything because it's a lot. And I had a lot of wine last night, stress drinking. And today I am slightly paying for that, lol. I'm dyslexic, but I'll do my best here and try to take my time. First, some background that came up in the comments. Some of you called it, but yes, I suffer from an abusive relationship myself. He doesn't even deserve a nerdy fun name, so we will just call him Jeff. Jeff was emotionally and physically harmful to me and encouraged my dieting in my 20s, constantly calling me fat, etc., and that was him being nice. Whenever I tried to leave, he would either intimidate or gaslight me or both. The short of it is Aaron finally figured out what was happening, as I had gone so low contact with him, and let's just say you wouldn't like Aaron when he's angry. Jeff is so far in my rearview one would think he's a mirage. Also, I finally watched all the recordings Sophia sent Aaron and I. They are just snippets that she never posted due to lighting/noise/ or something being said that she didn't want on the internet, but with Heather somewhere in it or her in the background. Not all of it was her hurling insults at me, as some are from outings I could not attend, and she put down others. I mentioned before Sophia is close to both Aaron and I, and we have sibling-like love for one another, and also that Sophia is gay. One video is just Sophia holding her phone down as Heather explains why Sophia's girlfriend can't be at the wedding. You guessed it, Heather checked the homophobe box. She just hit big at bingo. I am so embarrassed I ever thought she was my friend. Many other videos were Heather's put-downs to me. Sophia even managed to get the tacky convo from the point after Heather called me tacky the first time. There is much more to add. I will put another update on with what happened last night. Update 5. On to what happened. By the time Aaron got back to my place, I was less tipsy and more wine drunk. He looked at me and said I needed to lay off the celestial absinthe. D&D joke. He looked exhausted. I apologized as I felt I had imploded his life, and he snapped at me something like, "Don't you dare apologize for telling me the truth, ever," and went on about how hurt he was I never told him about any of it. I apologized, and he reminded me of Jeff and how bad things could have gone if he hadn't figured out what Jeff was doing to me. I suffered in silence, and things could have escalated, and he could have lost me. I am all he has, and he would never have forgiven me or himself. I told him he was right, and from now on, no lies and no secrets between us. He made me pinky swear like we did when we were kids. He then told me what happened. He got to his house and listened to every single one of the recordings. He had sent himself items and screenshots from my phone, including all the payments he could find of what I spent, and calculated it. He wrote me a check, and the total is staggering. I don't know if everyone is like this, but sometimes it is hard to keep a running tally on a specific expense over time if you just spend a little here and a little there over a year, but let's just say the check will replenish my lost savings and then some. He then called Heather over under the guise of wanting to have dinner with her. When she arrived, he was sitting in his living room and acting casual. He was recording the whole conversation on his computer nearby where he teaches tech, so the audio was perfect when he played it back to me, except for when Heather was moving about his house doing things here and there in other rooms as she talked to him, but he stayed on the couch by the desk. He was casual and asked about the wedding planning. She lamented how much there was to do but how excited she was. He asked about me. "How is Francesca doing? I haven't been able to catch up with her." And he said something about how she is trying to coach me on being a MOH, but that it's fine as she just wants him to be happy and have his adoptive sister in the wedding. Aaron and I never use the word adoptive. He is simply my brother, adopted or no. I never knew she used the term when I wasn't around. I can't quite pin it down as to why. There's nothing wrong with him being adopted or anything, but it just didn't sit well with me. He kept it chill, asking her questions he already knew answers to, and she clearly would lie to him. He brought up the money and maybe he should contribute since he does make more and he doesn't mind. That's when the big lies happened. She claimed to have worked many shifts and saving a lot of money and the like to pay for her half. Then she blamed me on the super expensive bridesmaid dresses, claiming I made a big deal about not looking my best in the much more affordable dresses she had wanted, etc., but made it out like she compromised by yielding to what I wanted even though it was more expensive. I am making this really short, but she made me out to be this diva and would imply how I must talk him into buying me expensive things, and that the bachelorette was going to be her biggest expense because I am a city girl and would not stand for a small dinner, which is what Heather wanted. Absolute Wookiee poo-poo. But whatever. Aaron toyed around a little longer before saying, "Hey, you should come listen to this," and started playing some of the videos. You can hear Heather saying things like, "Who is that? That sounds like me, but that's not me." But he kept playing them until she just goes, "What is this about?" He said he knew the truth and is giving her the chance to tell him the truth. She pretended she didn't know what he meant, and Aaron just said, "Allow me to be very clear. I know you've been lying to me, so tell me the truth." She started crying and asking why he's doing this to her and asked what she did to deserve this, and he got angry. He stated lying wasn't even the worst, but how he treated me, his sister and Heather's supposed friend. A lot was said between them, but he never raised his voice, and at one point she was screaming, and he said, "I won't even speak to you if you're just going to yell." They argued more, and he told her to get out and that the wedding is off. He said he expects her to pay me and him back for all the expenses, or he will bring her to court. And then, as she was crying, he called her sister Haley to tell her that Heather is on her way back home and laid out everything so Haley knew exactly why they were calling it off. The recording ends there, but according to Aaron, he put Heather's things in her sister's car for her. Yes, I am petty specific about Heather not owning a car, and locked her out. She stayed at the door crying for a minute and left. Aaron says he took a moment to cool down when the drama started back up. Out of all the bridesmaids, only one was singularly Heather's and not a mutual friend of ours or a friend of mine or Aaron's. Kim hated me at the very beginning because she is Heather's true best friend and should have been the MOH but made up some crap that I threw a fit I wasn't important in the wedding, so long-suffering Heather bent a knee and made me MOH. Kim called Aaron and yelled at him that Heather is at her house heartbroken and depressed because the other girls lied to him to make her look bad. Heather is willing to forgive him and take him back, but he needs to acknowledge the truth. She said Heather would only get mean to defend herself from us ganging up on her, and that Kim witnessed it firsthand. She told him I was the worst one and would make snide remarks to Heather about taking my brother away from me and how now I was alone and had no one. She implied something else that I won't repeat here because it's disgusting, but ahem, Luke and Space Mom, if you know. Then she dropped that Heather is also pregnant, and the stress cannot be good for her or the baby. Aaron said that he was almost considering talking to Heather and seeing things from her perspective because he was dumb, and he did think he had loved her, but it was the last parts that snapped him out of it. He said if Heather perceived she was being attacked, he almost felt bad, but he also knew me well enough to know that I am far too not confrontational. Then what, baby? He told Kim that this is impossible as Heather's rule was no intercourse until marriage, and he respected that. But now Kim and Heather are claiming that he was drunk one night and he and Heather did the deed and must not remember as he was practically passed out for most of it, which I won't begin to even touch that here. But I have never felt more angry in my life. Aaron doubts this as he has never been so drunk he would forget things. And on top of that, why would she keep it a secret from him after the fact? More to it, but those are the cliff notes. It was late, and Sophia couldn't come over, so we FaceTimed her to thank her. She and her girlfriend were eager to hear what happened, and Aaron told the whole thing over again. And Sophia's girlfriend, Letty, told Aaron to immediately demand a medical confirmation of pregnancy and a paternity test, as well as if Heather pinned down the when and where. She reminded Aaron that he has cameras all over his home and in the main room, so this can be easily disproven. But to also tread carefully because she can see a mile away that if Aaron refuses to be conned by that Medusa, doll home worlder wannabe, she will try to spin at making him an aggressor. She is pre-law, and her dad's an attorney, so Aaron will call him today and will speak to Heather only through his attorney going forward. We also opened some of Heather's texts to me together and screenshotted each one. But I was sleepy because of the wine and fell asleep. When I woke up, Aaron was on my tablet still reading and screenshotting, and he seemed oddly chipper. I asked what's up, and he informed me that Heather's sister Haley reached out, and she will be going to the doctor with Heather to see if Heather is really pregnant. But Haley is doubtful as she never mentioned it, nor has Haley noticed any signs. It seems Haley is on his side and over her. He also wants to thank Sophia and the other bridesmaids for helping us and is thinking about keeping the venue and just having a party in place of the wedding. But he isn't sure. Honestly, I don't think he slept, and he looks awful, so I canceled all my plans, and I'm going to make sure he rests and takes care of himself. Nothing has been decided, but he now sees how manipulative Heather can be. I know he is heartbroken, but he's putting on a face for everyone. I know far too well eventually he will need to mourn the relationship, and I am determined to be here when he does. I think that's everything for now. I wanted to share with everyone who has been so supportive of us, even if it meant kicking me in the pants to get me to be honest with my brother. To my fellow Coats and Rebels, thanks for helping me feel a part of a broader nerdom. It feels awesome. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Overheard my husband's best friend making disgusting comments about someone young at my daughter's birthday party. But my husband defended him when I confronted him. Me, 42F, and my husband, 45M, have been married for almost 19 years now. We met at a friend's party back in college, started dating, and have been together since. We have 5 children, 17M, 16F, 14M, 10M, 6M, who are generally good kids. Any fights or disagreements we have are usually over parenting decisions or how to handle situations with the kids, which is kind of what this started as, but has turned into something way more effed up. We have a pool in our backyard that we put in a few summers ago. Cost a fortune, but the kids love it, and we figured it would add value to the house or whatever. Anyway, we had a large amount of people over this weekend to celebrate my daughter's sweet 16. Of course, most of the guests were teenage girls/boys from her school, but family and some of our friends came, too. It was supposed to be a fun day for her to feel special and celebrate with people she cares about. One of the guests was my husband's best friend, also 45M, and his girlfriend, 32F. We'll call him H for this post. They've known each other since high school, played on the same football team, and have that whole brothers before hoes mentality that I generally just roll my eyes at. They've done all those stupid guy trips and stuff together over the years. H is divorced, has been for about 7 years. No kids of his own. I've never been too extremely fond of H or the age gap between him and his current girlfriend. It always gave me a weird vibe, especially since this is like his third girlfriend in the last 6 years, and they all keep getting younger, which I've pointed out to my husband before, but he just said H has a type and to leave it alone. But our children consider and call him their uncle. He's been around for their entire lives. My daughter even made him a world's best uncle mug for Christmas when she was younger. I'm close enough to his girlfriend to consider her a friend, though, so it's not like I completely hated the guy or anything. My daughter has been planning this party for months. All her friends were having big sweet 16 parties. Some families rented out actual venues, which we couldn't afford, so she wanted one too. I tried to make it special without going completely broke. So we compromised and went all out decorating our house instead. The pool was all decorated with these floating lights and streamers, and so was the inside and outside of the house. We got these custom banners made with her name and pictures of her growing up. We had rented some tables and chairs, set up a little DJ area for her friend who's really into music, and basically transformed our backyard into a party space. I even ordered this really nice cake from a bakery across town that was honestly overpriced, but I wanted her day to be special. And for her request, she was the only one at the party in a red bathing suit, so she would stand out. All her friends wore either blue or black. She wanted red to be her color for the day or whatever. I thought it was a cute idea, and it actually looked really nice in the photos. My husband thought it was stupid teenage girl stuff, but went along with it. The day of the party started off great. My husband was grilling, the kids were swimming, music was playing, everyone seemed to be having a good time. I spent most of the morning running around making sure everything was perfect and was finally able to relax a bit once everyone arrived. I got some nice pics for social media and was feeling pretty proud of pulling it all off without any disasters. Then things went to shit. I was in the laundry room grabbing some extra towels because a couple of the kids had gotten out of the pool and were dripping everywhere. The laundry room is right next to my husband's office, which is where we had told everyone to put their bags and stuff when they arrived. As I was getting the towels, I overheard H talking in the office. I initially thought he was talking to someone else in there, but I realized pretty quickly that he was on the phone since nobody was responding to him. He was saying how she was hotter than the girls he'd known as a teen, and he kind of wished she 18 that any boy who after would be doing a service to God, and she looked too good in a red bathing suit. And then he laughed and said something like, "I know, right? Red's always been my favorite color." There was more, but honestly, I think I blocked it out because I was so shocked and disgusted. I just stopped moving. I wasn't immediately jumping to action. I was confused and trying to process what I was hearing. This is a man my children grew up with, who babysat them when they were younger, stayed many nights over at our house for game nights or BBQs or whatever, talking about my daughter in a way no grown man should ever talk about a child. Like, it took me a minute to even believe what I was hearing. My first thought was maybe I misheard or he was talking about someone else, but he specifically mentioned the red bathing suit. My daughter was the only one in red. Then I thought maybe it was some sick joke he was making to whoever was on the phone. Either way, it was completely effed up. I don't really remember walking to the room. It was like I was on autopilot. I marched outside and dragged my husband away from the grill into the house to the office where H was. I probably looked crazy to the other guests, and I saw my sister-in-law raise her eyebrows at me as I basically yanked my husband away mid-conversation. I didn't care. I'll admit I yelled and told H she wasn't allowed in my house or around any of our family again, especially our daughter, and to leave immediately before telling my husband anything. I know that seems backwards, but I was so furious I couldn't even form sentences properly. I was seeing red. H got red in the face and immediately started cussing at me and my husband for eavesdropping. Called me an effing beach and said we were invading his privacy in our own damn house. I screamed at H to tell my husband what he was saying in my house about my daughter. H got even more mad before storming out and leaving in his girlfriend's car without his girlfriend. He didn't say goodbye to anyone, just grabbed his stuff and left. The whole time, my husband was standing there looking back and forth between us like he had no idea what was happening. He was getting irritated and demanded to know what happened. So, I took a second to try to calm down before telling him what I'd heard. I was shaking. I was so angry. When I told him, he just stood there with this blank expression. Then, he said we would deal with it later and just let our daughter have a great rest of the party, that we shouldn't make a scene and ruin her day. I agreed because I didn't want to ruin her day, and we rejoined the party, even though we got a few looks from people who had heard the yelling. My sister-in-law kept trying to get me to tell her what happened, but I just said it was a misunderstanding. I tried to put on a happy face, but I felt sick to my stomach and kept watching my daughter, wondering if H had ever done or said anything to her directly. H's girlfriend, let's call her S, came up to me towards the end of the party asking why H was spamming her phone, telling her that I was a beach. Basically, all the derogatory terms you can think of, even going as far to say I was a whore just like my daughter. I was extremely appalled and dragged her over to my husband, who gave me an exasperated look. He told me to let it die for just a bit and he will talk to H after the party. I felt like I was going insane. How was he being so calm about this? The rest of the party went on without any more incidents, but I couldn't enjoy it. I kept thinking about what H had said and kept an eye on my daughter the whole time. She didn't seem to notice anything was wrong and was having fun with her friends, which was the only positive. After everyone left and we cleaned up, I tried to talk to my husband about it again. He said he would handle it and would go talk to H the next day. I told him I wanted H completely out of our lives. My husband said I was overreacting and that he needed to hear H's side of the story first. We argued, but he insisted on talking to H. That was a few days ago. My husband went to H's place and ended up staying the night there. When he finally came home, he told me I was overreacting, that H wasn't even talking about our daughter, that I shouldn't have acted the way I did, and I was connecting dots that weren't supposed to be connected. I asked him who else H could possibly have been talking about at our daughter's party, where she was the only one in a red bathing suit. My husband said H claimed he was talking to a buddy about some girl they both knew from back in high school who used to wear a red bikini, that it was just a coincidence. I was upset and told him even if it wasn't our daughter he was talking about, which is complete effed up, he's still talking about a 16-year-old in an inappropriate way. I asked him how he could defend this creep and why he would believe such an obvious lie. And the thing is, even if it was about some girl from their high school days, which I absolutely do not believe, why the hell would you be having that conversation at a teenager's birthday party? It's inappropriate no matter how you look at it. We argued for a long time. I brought up how H's girlfriends keep getting younger, how he said other weird things in the past that I had brushed off, how he seems to always want to hang around when my daughter and her friends are over, but my husband dismissed all of it. Eventually, he left again, saying he was going to drive to blow off steam. Now I'm in the bathroom shaking and crying as I type this. How am I supposed to just sit back and allow this creep near any of my children? I love my husband and I think he's just been blinded by his loyalty to his friend. I don't want to get a divorce, especially because I live across the country from my family, and I don't want to leave my husband. I love him, but he isn't taking me seriously in a serious situation. It feels like he's choosing his friend over his own daughter's safety and my peace of mind. I keep thinking, even if he wasn't talking about my daughter, he was still talking about someone around the age of my daughter. It's wrong in so many ways. I would have still acted this way if it was about someone else at the party. And the fact that my husband can't see that is really concerning to me. I keep thinking this is a nightmare and I'm gonna wake up. But no, it's reality. Every time I close my eyes, I keep hearing what H said and imagining all the times he's been around my kids in the past. I'm just overwhelmed and don't know what to do. Should I talk to my daughter about this? My husband has never taken my concerns seriously in the past, always dismissing them as me being emotional or dramatic. But this feels different. This feels like a hill I'm willing to die on. Please help me figure out what to do next. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Edit 1. Hey guys, OP here. Holy shit. I've been reading all your comments, even though I haven't had time to respond to many, and they've been really helpful in making me feel like I'm not crazy. Thanks for everyone who responded in the comments. I appreciate every single one of you, and I've read just about every comment. My heart goes out to those who have gone through something like this in the past. It's scary how common these situations seem to be. My husband still isn't back from his drive. It's been almost 24 hours now, and he's only texted me once to say he's fine and thinking. I have a suspicion he might be out with H because I called H's girlfriend S to tell her everything, and she told me H left that morning and hasn't been home since. Either me or my son are going to swing by her apartment and she's going to stay over here for a few nights. I don't think she can stand to see H any more than I can. She's been angry at him ever since the text messages. She showed me some of the other things he said about me, and it's just vile. To everyone asking why I didn't immediately tell my daughter, I was trying to figure out the right way to approach it. Seeing your comments helped me realize I need to be direct but gentle. I'm going to talk to her today. I'm dreading it though. What do you even say? Hey honey, your uncle who you've known your whole life is a creep who is saying sexual things about you. It just sucks all around. I've told my eldest son. He acted the way my husband should have acted. He's angry and ready to hop in the car and find both H and my husband. I feel bad involving him, but I need him to know what happened so he can protect his siblings when I'm not around. I had to actually convince him not to do anything stupid that would get him in trouble. He's always been protective of his sister. My eldest son told me that H never did anything inappropriate to him directly, but he noticed some behavior which was always strange, but he blamed it on H just being weird or socially awkward. Like how H would sometimes make comments about girls at his school or ask if any of them were hot, or how he'd offer to drive my daughter and her friends places a lot, which I always thought was him being helpful. I feel sick thinking about all the signs I might have missed. Also, to the people telling me I should have recorded H or confronted him differently, it happened really fast and I wasn't thinking clearly. I wish I had handled it differently too, but I was just so shocked and angry. So here are my plans moving forward. 1. H isn't going to be allowed near any of my kids ever. This is a fine line. If I decide to stay with my husband and he tries to cross it, then he will be the next one to go. By the way, my legal people, can I get a restraining order? Is that how that works? Do I need proof beyond what I heard? 2. I'm going to tell my husband he isn't allowed home or allowed to talk to my kids. This is until I tell all of my children what happened. I'll have talked with each of them separately. 3. Me and S are going to go through my husband's stuff and whatever she can grab from her and H's apartment. We're looking for any CP or things that are suspicious. I'm also worried about this third man, the one on the phone. Maybe S knows him. Also, not immediately the moment she gets here. We are going to wait until maybe tomorrow or even the next day. I know some of you will think I'm overreacting or jumping to conclusions about the CP, but better safe than sorry. I need to protect my kids. And honestly, after what I heard, I wouldn't put anything past H at this point. And if my husband is defending him so adamantly, I need to know there's nothing else going on that I should be aware of. We'll update again when I know more. I have a lot to process and figure out. Honestly, I'm scared of what might come next, but all your comments have given me strength. Thank you. Edit 2. I think a lot of people are misunderstanding some things from my last edit, so let me clarify. First, I didn't automatically assume my husband was into CP. It had been suggested by S over the phone after she read some of the comments on Reddit. She wanted to check H's stuff and said we should check my husband's too, just in case. It's not that I think my husband is into that. It's more about making sure H hasn't sent him anything or that there's no other evidence of concerning behavior. Trust but verify, I guess. Also, I don't know why my husband has been MIA for the past few nights. Maybe he's just waiting for me to calm down, which has been his pattern in other disagreements. I haven't sent the stay away message yet, which I might not do. But whenever we talk, I'll be asking all these questions and more. For context, my husband and H met in high school and have been friends since. So there's a lot of history there. I'm quite used to my husband not backing me up, telling me I'm over-exaggerating or setting me aside. This has been often in our relationship. I guess this has really opened my eyes about the past. I used to just go along with it to keep the peace. One time a few years back, my husband's brother made some comments about my weight after I had our fourth child, and my husband just laughed it off as a joke when I got upset. Or when H made some sexist comment at a dinner party and I called him out, my husband told me later I was being too sensitive and should learn to take a joke. It's always been like that. I just never thought it would extend to something this serious involving our children. I don't plan on divorcing him yet, even though I know I jumped the gun on it last night. If there is something that I find suspicious or will make me reconsider this, it'll be thought about long and hard. I still love my husband. I know he loves all of our kids. I'm just waiting for him to admit what H did was wrong or to apologize for dismissing me. About my kids, I will be talking to my daughter very soon, and all of y'all's advice has helped me so much on how to approach it. I think I'll say enough for her to understand without going into the graphic details. I don't want to traumatize her more than necessary. I'm just nervous about the whole conversation. A lot of you are asking for updates. I'll post if anything major happens, but right now it's just waiting for my husband to come home so we can have a real conversation about all this. S should be here in a couple hours. Thanks again for all the support. Update. Okay guys, sorry it took a while to update. Things have been crazy around here. I think I figured this out. A lot happened and I'm stressed typing this. I can't believe how supportive everyone has been, but also there have been some really nasty messages in my inbox that I'm just ignoring. So, for those who did not see my comment earlier, it was buried in the thread. I'm not getting a divorce with my husband at this time. If anything sketchy or something I see that crosses a line, that notion may change, though. I did not immediately assume my husband was into CP. It's something I assumed H might be into given what I heard. While on a phone call with S, she said we should go through my husband's things too. I agreed. Me and my husband have an open phone policy anyways. I'll admit I've never checked his phone since our second was born. So, it's not like I was pushing boundaries by saying this. Anyway, S came over and we had a long talk. She's decided to leave H and I'm helping her figure out how to get her stuff from their apartment. She told me H has always been a bit off, but she never suspected anything like this. She's been staying in our guest room for a couple days now. So today I had a very long talk with my second eldest son and my daughter. I told them what happened, though I saved a few details like the text messages, and simply said that H had been saying inappropriate things. I told them that whatever happens going forward, it's not their fault, nor is it my daughter's in any way. It's the pedophilic mind of someone we trusted. I asked them if he or anyone had done anything to any of them, and if they had, that I wouldn't be angry at them and would be proud they spoke up. These conversations are so hard to have. My daughter was upset, but didn't seem super shocked, which bothers me. She said he would sometimes get too close, put his arm around her shoulders, but nothing that ever made her alarm bells go off in her head. She mentioned that sometimes he would offer to drive her places alone, or invite her to come over and swim in his apartment complex's pool, but she always had other plans, or I would say no. I reiterated to her that she was not to blame for what happened, and it's all on H. We hugged and I held her as she cried for a bit. I felt like such a failure as a mother for not protecting her better. How did I miss these signs? My second eldest son was quiet, which he often is, but he told me that he never really liked H and thought he was weird. Said something about how H would sometimes talk about girls in a way that made him uncomfortable. I asked him again if anything happened directly to him, and he said no. We talked about more things to do with this type of stuff, and I think it ended well, though I'm still worried about them both. My two youngest children simply know that H did bad stuff and we won't be seeing him for a long, long time. I didn't want to explain too much to them since they're still little. My 10-year-old asked if H was in jail and I said no, but that he wasn't a good person to be around. My 6-year-old just nodded and went back to his toys, hopefully too young to really understand. Then around lunchtime, my husband came home. I never did go through with telling him to stay away, and he was basically sobbing at my feet outside our front door. He told me he was so confused and angry about what happened that he was convinced his best friend wasn't like that he had been drinking last night after he left and fell into a bit of self-hatred. He wasn't with H though, but he had been texting with him that night. I asked him why he never stood up for me and my daughter, why he stayed the night with H after everything I told him. He said I was making a scene at our daughter's birthday party and didn't want to ruin the day for her. And he stayed the night because it was too late anyways by the time he stopped talking with H. I hate this apology, though. Maybe it's the comments echoing in my ears, but it felt fake and that he was minimizing my pain and maximizing his. The way he was acting felt more like he was sorry for himself than sorry for not protecting our daughter. He kept saying how hard this was for him to lose a friend of 30 years, how he felt betrayed, how he didn't know what to think. Nothing about how I felt or how our daughter might feel. He went silent when he saw S at the house, though. I told him that she was staying a few nights. I didn't give him much of an explanation. Later, when I started to make dinner, he came up behind me and hugged me. I pushed him back, told him that I didn't want any physical touch with him anytime soon. He got angry, telling me that it was over now, that he apologized and promised to stand up for us in the future. I told him that he has to make up for what he did in the past first, that he needs to talk with our daughter. He went to go sulk somewhere, and I haven't really seen much of him since. He did eventually talk to our daughter, but I have no idea what he said. She hasn't mentioned it, and I don't want to pry if she's not ready to talk about it. I hope he apologized for not believing me immediately. We haven't gone through my husband's phone or computer yet. Honestly, I'm afraid of what we might find, but also kind of sure we won't find anything. I think he's just blind when it comes to his friend, not involved in anything himself. At least I hope that's the case. H has been texting and calling my husband nonstop. I've told my husband he needs to block him, but I'm not sure if he has. I overheard him on the phone yesterday having what sounded like an argument, but he took it outside, so I couldn't hear what was said. S and I did check out H's phone before she left him. She knew his password. There was some gross stuff in his search history, but nothing illegal that we could find. Lots of barely legal searches, though, which just confirms my suspicions about him. She's planning to file for a restraining order based on some threatening texts he sent her after she left. Hopefully that made enough sense, as I'm rushing the last bit. Shout out to everyone who's been helping me. It's just a lot to do in a short time now that my husband is already back in the home. Also, to the misogynists who keep telling me to take a step back and breath, that my husband is being logical and I am being emotional. Scroll up 3 paragraphs to where he was blubbering on our doorstep. I'm not sure what comes next. I think I've done what I can for now to protect my kids. My husband and I are sleeping in separate rooms at the moment. We've barely spoken in the last couple days. I know we need to have a real conversation about all this and what it means for our relationship going forward, but it's hard to even look at him, right? Thanks for reading all this. Sorry for any typos or if things don't make sense. It's late and I'm exhausted. Now on to the next story. Story 5. My brother and his new wife demanded $225,000 as wedding gifts. Since I'm rich and single, when I refused, they insulted me, so I kicked them out of my apartment. For context, I'm a 34F. My younger brother, Frank, 27M, has been dating Vanessa, 25F, for the past few years, and we got along just fine until recently. They got engaged a couple of weeks ago and decided that they were going to have a really small, intimate wedding, which wasn't going to require a lot of planning. So they invited just their families and a couple of friends. I was happy for them, but at the engagement party 2 weeks ago, Vanessa singled me out and said that she had to speak to me in private. She told me that since they were having a small wedding and inviting just a handful of people, they also wanted to speak to the guests about the wedding gifts because they wanted it to be practical. They had already made it very clear that they only wanted money, and I didn't mind it, even though I thought it was a bit too on the nose. But when Vanessa first spoke to me in private, she told me that everybody else could give them whatever they wanted. But for me, they had a special request, and she demanded $25,000 from me as their wedding gift. I thought it was a joke because there was no way I was going to write a check for that kind of money under any circumstances, and I thought it was ridiculous for her to even ask. But she explained that she and my brother had spoken about it, and since I had my own business and I made the most amount of money out of all the people that they knew, they thought it was pretty valid for them to ask me for this kind of money. It's true that I do make a lot of money from my jewelry business, but that doesn't mean that I have to throw so much of it away on them. I flat out refused to entertain that request, and I told them that I would cut a check for the amount that I thought was appropriate for a wedding gift. $25,000 was simply out of the question. But then she started arguing with me and told me that I was being stingy and insensitive because they really needed the money. They were planning on starting their own business venture, and they were going to use that as seed money. Given the fact that I didn't have any husband or kids, it's not like I needed that money all to myself. I made more than what I needed for myself, so the least I could do was contribute to the family. I thought she was being ridiculous, and I was exasperated, so I told her that I was not willing to even dignify that with a discussion because she was seriously overstepping her boundaries. And then she told me that if I was not going to write a check for the amount of money that she had requested, then I had better not show up at the wedding at all because it was clear that I was not willing to help. After she said that, I walked out of the party, but I didn't make a big deal out of it because I didn't want to discuss this with anyone else since I knew that it would only lead to another fight, and I was really not in the mood. So, I just went home after telling everyone that I had a headache. As soon as I got home, I called my brother up and I told him everything that had been said, and to my surprise, he had apparently been in on the whole thing and sided with Vanessa. He told me that being my only younger sibling, he felt like this was the least I could do for him now that he was going to start a new chapter in his life. Both of them were planning on quitting their jobs and they needed this kind of money, so by refusing, I was being pretty selfish. When he said that, I just hung up on him because I was so disgusted. But it didn't end there. After that day, the two of them started pestering me, and Vanessa even wrote me a message throwing Frank under the bus completely, saying that he only worked a petty job right now and even she was getting tired of her dead-end job, so they desperately needed the money to start their own business, and my decision to decline was incredibly selfish. For context, Frank works in sales and Vanessa is a data analyst in the same company. She earns slightly more than he does, but they still earn significantly less than me. That's their own problem, though. I don't understand why they expect me to be so charitable towards them, especially given the fact that I think I've already been doing enough for them in the past couple of years. Since their company has taken a financial hit due to the pandemic, I've had to help them out with money several times, and I've done it without any complaints. I've never even asked for the money back because it's my brother after all, and so far we have had a good relationship. But that's the most that I can do. I don't think that I need to give in to all their whims and fancies, especially this one, because I feel like I have to put my foot down at some point. Most importantly, I've also been allowing them to live rent-free in an apartment that actually belongs to me. They moved in several years ago, so I guess they might have forgotten about it, but I haven't. A couple of days ago, I decided that I had had enough and I needed to evict them. It wasn't going to be a problem because they had been living there without paying any rent. There was no written agreement as such, and honestly, I didn't even care anymore. I just wanted them out because I felt like they were stepping on me at this point, and I absolutely couldn't let that slide. Yesterday they got married, and obviously I did not attend. But what really annoyed me was the condescending and entitled email that they sent to me the night before the wedding. They couldn't find any other way to contact me since I had already blocked both of them everywhere, so they had to make do with an email. But whatever they had said was really horrible. They had said that I was a selfish and narcissistic person who didn't care about anybody apart from herself, and that's why I don't have a husband or any kids. Just to clarify, that's a personal choice. I'm not interested in getting married or having kids right now, and I don't think I'll ever be. I'm not ashamed of it, but for them to bring it up and make me look like the bad guy and use that against me, it was just low, especially when I have done so much for them in the past. They also said that it was very clear to them that I did not care about my family as much as I cared about my money, and they told me that they had lost all respect for me, then went on to call me some more names. I don't know why, but that email really triggered me, and that's why, while they were getting married, I decided to go to the apartment and had the locks changed. I know it's not legal, but I also know that they can't exactly come after me with a lawyer because even that's going to require money, so good luck to them. They found out about it today since they spent last night in a fancy hotel nearby where they had their celebration with dinner and stuff. I knew about that. I was supposed to be a part of it, but of course I didn't end up there. Anyway, they came back home today. They were furious and immediately decided to make their way to my place because they knew that I was the only person who could have done something like this. But I refused to let them in, even when Frank started crying and accusing me of ruining his time as a newlywed. I just told him that if they really wanted to have that apartment, they probably would have been grateful to the owner, but they were not. They had insulted and disrespected me over and over again just because I was not willing to bend over backward for them, so now they would just have to deal with this, and if they didn't like it, they could take it up with a lawyer, and so would I. I guess Vanessa realized that there was no talking to me, so she just told me that she didn't want to move back into the apartment, but I would at least have to unlock it so they could collect their things and find another place to live. Now that seemed reasonable enough, so I drove to their place. They drove separately, and I unlocked the apartment so they could start gathering their things. It took them a while to find enough boxes, but I made it very clear that they would have to clear out today itself. Frank kept trying to argue with me throughout the process, but Vanessa did not even acknowledge my existence, and within 3 hours they were all packed up. The apartment was already pre-furnished for the most part, and whatever they had purchased with their own money, I promised them that I would arrange for it to be moved into the next apartment myself, and then they finally left and I locked the apartment once again. That's how they spent their first day as husband and wife, and I was pretty satisfied with myself. Until a couple of hours ago, when my parents called me and told me that what I had done was completely unnecessary. They said that Frank and Vanessa had shown up at their place with all their stuff crying, and it was very obvious that they were quite distressed. It's not like my family didn't already know about the situation. I had told them about it the day after the engagement party itself, but they had said that they were going to stay out of it because we were grown-ups and we could sort it out amongst ourselves, and I thought it was fair enough. But now, all of a sudden, they thought it was time to interfere, and I didn't think that was cool, so I was very upset with them. I told my parents that I didn't think it was fair for them to be meddling right now, especially when they had chosen not to say anything before. However, they told me that before this, the situation was not that bad, but after what I had done, it had completely gotten out of control, and they had felt the need to step in because what I had done was just not cool. I told them about the email and tried to explain myself and how upset I had been by the way I was being treated. But even then, my parents maintained that my behavior was unacceptable and that there were several better ways to go about it because if I wanted them out so bad, I could have just spoken to a lawyer, gone about it the legal way, given them time to vacate the place and just handled it better. But instead, I chose to be vindictive and completely ruined their first day as husband and wife. Now, after speaking to my parents, I'm wondering if I actually did the right thing or not, because the way they put it, I do feel like I might have been a little too harsh. So, am I the jerk for kicking my brother and his wife out of my apartment a day after they got married? Edit. Okay, so the apartment situation is a bit complicated. It was actually the first apartment that I had lived in independently, so it was kind of special to me. When I started making a decent amount of money, first I bought the house that I'm living in right now, and then about 2 years later, when I heard that my old landlord was selling that apartment, I decided to buy it from him. It didn't even cost that much because it's a relatively small apartment, and there was a lot of repair work to be done, so I got it for cheap. Then I did everything that had to be done. In the meantime, Frank came to me and told me that he needed a place to crash for a while because he and Vanessa were getting serious and they wanted to move in together. But at the time, Frank still stayed with our parents, so he asked me if they could move into my apartment, and since I was not using it, I told them that they could. I thought that they would probably use it for a couple of months and then they would find a place of their own. But they went to stay there and they did not even pay any rent, and I didn't feel like asking because I knew that he was my brother, we got along well, and I knew that he didn't earn as much as I did. Also, I didn't need the money from the rent as much as he needed to save, as Frank himself has acknowledged so many times. So, I let them stay there without paying rent. I never addressed it or anything, and I guess as time passed, they forgot about it, but I didn't. So, that's the situation with the apartment, and of course now I feel kinda stupid for not making them pay rent. But honestly, I was just trying to do a good thing for my brother. For the past many years, after we grew out of that little kid's immaturity of fighting and bickering over small stuff, we have actually been very close, and I thought that of all the people in my family, at least Frank would understand me. But now I don't feel the same way, and I think that moving him out of my apartment was something that I had to do to teach him a lesson. Now, whether or not that lesson was too hard, I don't know, but from everything that I've just said, I think it's very clear that I've always tried to be there for Frank, so I don't understand why he chose to behave this way with me, and I can't even say that it's all because of Vanessa because for as long as they have been together, she has also gotten along quite well with me, and that's something that I mentioned right in the beginning itself. Their behavior recently has been completely bizarre, and I just can't make sense of it. Update 1. Okay, so it's been a week since the wedding and I spoke to my parents. I told them that I don't regret what I did. For years, I had been letting them live in my apartment without paying rent, and the least they could have done was be grateful to me for it. But instead, they decided to disrespect and insult me by constantly poking me even after I made it very clear that I was not going to write a check for $25,000 because it was a ridiculous demand to make from anyone. And if my parents don't understand why I did what I did, then I don't think that I need to explain the same thing to them over and over again. Either they get it or they don't, and since they have decided that they don't get it, I'm done with them as well. Before this, my parents had never taken sides, but honestly, all those fights were from when we were younger and they didn't really mean anything. But this time, this fight means something to both of us, and it's very clear which side they are on. They tried really hard to guilt-trip me into believing that I had done something really bad. But I really don't think so. That email that they had sent to me had been really mean, and they should be glad that I just kicked them out of the apartment. I can even ask them to return all the money that they have borrowed from me over the years, and even if they refuse, I can just tell people about it, and I know that that's not going to look too good for them. Until now, it was only our parents who knew about the situation, but I can start running my mouth off about it to other people as well, and then we'll see what everyone else has to say about the situation. Right now, I only haven't done any of that because I don't want to play into the drama and I want to get over all of this. I'm a busy person. I don't have time for all this nonsense, and that's the only reason they think they can get away with doing whatever they want and saying whatever they want. But I have made it very clear to my parents that if they want to mess with me, then they should be prepared for the consequences as well. If they can't take it, they shouldn't feel so comfortable dishing it out either. And that's it. I spoke to them a couple of days ago, and today I realized that they had blocked me, but I don't really care. Of course, I felt kind of bad about it initially, but now that a couple of hours have passed, I just feel angry about everything. I know that this is a strategy to make me feel guilty and get me to apologize, but it's really just not going to work. Update 2. So, it's been 2 weeks since I kicked them out of the apartment, and yesterday I received an email from Frank and Vanessa late in the evening. After my last phone call with my parents, which I had spoken about in my last update, I didn't hear from anyone, so I assumed that we were done and dusted with this. But that's clearly not the case because when I read that email, it was even more disrespectful than the one they had sent before, somehow. Because of the tone of the email, at first I thought that they were apologizing to me because they started off by saying that they were really sorry that they had hurt my feelings, but then they clarified that they didn't mean to hurt my feelings by insulting me, but they said that I was probably hurt because they had touched a nerve. They went on to talk about how they knew for a fact that I was just becoming bitter with age because I was literally 33 and I still haven't been able to make a long-term relationship work, which is why I don't have a husband, let alone kids. And because of that, I'm probably jealous of Frank and Vanessa because they have everything that I wanted for myself, which is why I refused to help them out and went on to kick them out of the house. When they brought up my bitterness and selfishness, they said they were sorry for bringing something like that up. They should have known that the truth would have hurt me, and said that they were ready to forgive me for whatever I had done that day because it had probably come from a place of anger. Happy people don't just kick their brothers out of their houses over such small and petty fights, but clearly I'm not a happy person, and judging by my attitude right now, it's probably good that I don't have any husband or kids because I would probably ruin their lives as well because of my ego and psychotic anger issues. This was the first paragraph of the email, and I was already fuming by the end of that, but even then, I decided to steel myself so I could read the rest of it because it was a pretty long email. I really wanted to know what these people had to say about me so I could push away any guilt over what I had done because reading this email just made me realize that for everything that I did, they totally deserved it and even worse. Whatever I mentioned until now, it was already condescending and mean enough, but it got significantly worse in the second paragraph. They literally said that even though right now they are pretty upset with me, they would still like to give me some advice for the future and told me that instead of acting so crazy all the time, I should probably just do some yoga and chill out because my issues have started to show on my face apparently. According to Frank and Vanessa, I should really lock somebody down quickly if I ever intend on having a happy life with a husband and kids because it's not like I'm getting any younger, and I can choose to stay married to my work, but then I'm going to start looking old, and judging by my appearance right now, it probably won't work out well for me. So yeah, they really came for my appearance, and they know that that's something that I'm kind of insecure about. The rest of it is not very relevant. It was just some more BS about me being a terrible person and stuff. But yeah, all of this, it really got on my nerves, and I decided to post this on social media. I didn't even change anything. I just screenshotted the entire email, posted it, and also spoke about the entire incident in detail. I explained everything that had happened till now, why I had even gotten into this fight with them, and how ungrateful they were. I spoke about the apartment as well, and then I posted it. That was last night, and by this morning, I received a ton of messages and comments from my friends and a couple of my relatives as well, and they've all been very supportive of me. Most people are very surprised that Frank would do something like this, just as I am, because I never thought that he would turn out to be somebody who would go for such low blows. But a couple of his friends have also reached out to me personally and told me that this is not surprising at all because for the past few years, ever since he started dating Vanessa, he has started changing for the worse. Maybe I never noticed it because he never behaved with me the same way, but there definitely had been a shift in the way he took people for granted, constantly demanded that people do stuff for him, and behaved like an entitled brat, and he had already lost a couple of friends because of that. And now that I think about it, I do agree that even though he kept his composure with me most of the time, I would occasionally notice him acting very weirdly around other people in a way that was not like him at all. So maybe this really shouldn't come as a surprise to me. But anyway, the post has been made, and it's very obvious that most people are on my side here. By all means, they can continue to send me such horrible messages, and I can just post about it on social media, and then it'll just backfire on them. Update 3. So, 2 days have passed since I posted about the situation, and today my parents finally called me up and told me that they do not condone whatever Frank had written in that email, and they were very disappointed when they found out about it. That's exactly what I had been waiting for my parents to realize that they were on the wrong side all along, and I told them that I did appreciate the fact that they had called me to apologize, but it was too little, too late. They had already blocked me once and made me feel bad for just standing up for myself, so right now I needed some time and space away from them to process my feelings, and they would just have to deal with it. They told me that they had asked Frank and Vanessa to leave the house, and they had had a huge fight with both of them, but eventually the two of them had left. Judging by the way my parents were speaking to me, it seemed like they thought they were doing me a huge favor by kicking Frank and Vanessa out of the house and just doing the decent thing, but I just told them that I wouldn't care even if they had allowed the two of them to stay with them. It's the truth, I really wouldn't care. But anyway, my parents thought that I was bluffing, and they told me that I could put on the tough guy act all that I wanted, but deep down they knew that I was going to miss them so I could take my time, but I was going to come back to them, they were sure of it. I just told them not to bet on it, and then I hung up. I didn't bother to block them because I knew that if I did that, they would get offended and start pestering me. At least if I did not block them, they would only annoy me occasionally. Anyway, that's the situation with my parents, and while I'm not exactly happy with their lukewarm apology, because even when they were acknowledging their mistake, they still said that they did not think that what I had done was a good move, so they stood by it. Well then, they could keep standing by that, but I was going to stand by what I believed, and I thought that I had done the right thing, so that's all that matters to me. They can keep their apology to themselves. I don't really want it. In the past couple of weeks, I've pretty much gotten used to not speaking to anybody from my family, and I really thought that it was going to be a lot harder. But honestly, I have a lot of work to do, and I still have my friends there by my side, so it's really not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Update 4. Hey, so it's been 2 weeks since I've made that post, and by now pretty much everybody in the family has learned whatever went down between me and Frank, and from what I know, nobody's on his side. Nobody wants to speak to him, and even the friends that he used to have reached out to me to tell me that he's become increasingly difficult to deal with, and just because they were not willing to call me up and force me to take that post down, he decided to cut everybody off. Currently, from whatever I've heard, they are staying with Vanessa's parents and are trying to get everybody to hate me. They have been telling people that I'm the problem, that I am a bitter and horrible person, and basically just repeating everything that they had already said in that email. But nobody wants to speak to them, so they've been getting blocked by people left and right. They have even been trying to tell people that I have been lying about the whole thing. But I don't understand why they thought anyone was going to believe that, because I had literally posted the screenshots. How could I even be lying if I had the screenshots? Anyway, I don't think it matters because nobody believes them, nobody likes them, and nobody wants to talk to them, so they can keep running their mouths. It's really not going to make a difference to me. On a happier note, I had put my apartment up for rent a couple of weeks ago, and recently I had a tenant move in, and it's going to be another source of income for me. Things are working out pretty well for me, so I have no complaints. Now on to the next story. Story 6. Syl announced her pregnancy at my baby shower, but her husband revealed he had a secret vasectomy. Now she's blaming me for ruining her marriage after her affair got exposed. I, 27F, have been happily married to my husband, Joe, 29M, for 3 years now. We dated for 4 years before getting married, and from the beginning we both wanted to start a family when the time felt right. His family is pretty tight-knit, and we've always been close, especially with Joe's parents and his brother, Ross, 34M, who is married to Jenny, 32F. Jenny and Ross have been married for 6 years, and while we get along okay, Jenny's always had a bit of a competitive streak. She likes to be the first at everything. First to get married, first to buy a house, and first to have the perfect life, as she puts it. When Joe and I announced my pregnancy 3 months ago at a family dinner, Jenny's reaction wasn't exactly what I'd call supportive. While everyone else was hugging us and celebrating, she barely managed to smile. She kept making comments about how some people just get lucky right away, and how younger couples just have it easier. I tried to brush it off because I knew they had been trying to conceive for a while, but Jenny's attitude started to turn what should have been a happy time into something uncomfortable. The pregnancy news seemed to fuel something in Jenny. From then on, she would make snide remarks whenever we were around. She would bring up how her marriage had been longer and how, of course, they would have children soon once everything was perfectly planned, and that she wasn't in a hurry like other people. When Joe and I went to pick up some baby items that his mom had bought us, we heard from her that Jenny was always asking about my pregnancy symptoms and even trying to one-up me by talking about all the things she'd do differently once she was pregnant. I was trying to be patient because I felt bad about their struggles, but it was exhausting. Fast forward to last weekend at my baby shower, which was one of the happiest days of my life. My mom and mother-in-law worked together for weeks to make it perfect, going all out with the decorations, food, and games. They even rented a beautiful venue, and the room was decorated with soft pastel colors, little baby-themed ornaments, and flowers everywhere. Friends and family showed up with the warmest smiles and arms full of gifts, and I could feel their genuine excitement. For the first time in months, I felt completely at ease, just soaking in the joy, love, and support all around me. I was busy unwrapping gifts when suddenly Jenny stood upright in the middle of the room. I noticed her standing there, waiting for everyone to look at her. And then, with a big smile plastered on her face, she announced that she was pregnant too. She didn't just casually mention it. She made a grand announcement like it was her special day, like all eyes should be on her. The timing couldn't have been more deliberate. She waited until the room was quiet, right in the middle of my gift opening, when everyone was focused on me and the baby. I could feel the room's energy shift at that moment. People who had been watching me with joy now turned their attention to Jenny, clapping and cheering, and for a second, it felt like my baby shower had turned into her celebration. I managed to smile and even hugged her, saying congratulations, but inside, I was honestly a little bit frustrated. It was clear she'd been holding on to this news, just waiting for the right time to announce it in front of everyone. Part of me hoped that maybe this would finally make her happy, and we could both enjoy our pregnancies together, but something felt off. I pushed those thoughts aside, though, trying to keep the day positive. Then Ross, who had been sitting silently in the corner, suddenly stood up and looked at Jenny, saying, "I can't believe you did this." The entire room froze. I could tell from the expression on his face that he was upset, but I had no idea what was coming. Then he just blurted it out. He'd had a vasectomy 3 years ago. He explained that he'd never wanted kids, which Jenny knew, but that he'd strung her along, hoping she'd eventually let go of the idea. Ross was shaking, looking genuinely hurt and humiliated, and he kept repeating how he couldn't believe she did this. The room went completely silent. I think everyone was processing the shock at different paces. Jenny stood there with a look of horror on her face as the reality hit her that everyone knew the truth. I could feel people looking around the room, whispering, trying to make sense of it. Then Jenny's expression shifted from proud to panicked, and she bolted out of the room, tears streaming down her face, with her mom quickly following her out. Ross stood there for a moment, looking completely broken, before he too left. It was like watching a bad dream unfold right in the middle of what should have been one of the happiest days of my life. The entire mood of the shower was shattered. The celebration just ended. My friends and family came up to me, trying to comfort me, but even they didn't know what to say. I was left standing there in shock, holding a half-opened gift in my hands while people slowly started leaving, clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. What was supposed to be a beautiful memory turned into a complete disaster. I felt hurt, embarrassed, and confused, and the reality of what just happened didn't fully sink in until later that night. The following day, the fallout started to unfold in full force. I began getting a stream of nasty messages from Jenny. She blamed me for ruining her marriage and claimed that if I hadn't gotten pregnant, she wouldn't have felt so pressured to find alternative method to get pregnant. Her exact words. She even accused me of getting pregnant first just to spite her, which made no sense. How could I have known any of this? It was like she was rewriting the entire situation to make me the villain. Then, as if the messages weren't enough, I started hearing from extended family members. Jenny was reaching out to them, telling them that my pregnancy was the reason her marriage was now falling apart. She had twisted the entire situation, making it sound like my baby was to blame for her choices. I had no idea what she was telling them, but some family members even reached out to me to ask if it was true, if I had somehow known about Ross's vasectomy, or if I had done something to cause all this drama. It was like she wanted to turn everyone against me, and I couldn't understand why she would go to such lengths. Joe was devastated too. He loved his sister, but he couldn't condone her actions, and he was torn between supporting me and dealing with his family's reaction. My in-laws were equally shocked and hurt. They were trying to figure out how their seemingly perfect daughter-in-law could do something so deceitful and destructive. They tried to mediate, but it was clear that Jenny was spiraling, refusing to take any responsibility. Right now, I feel so trapped because of all of this. My doctor even warned me to be careful with my stress levels, reminding me how it could affect the baby. But it was impossible to relax with Jenny dragging my name through the mud and creating so much family tension. Blocking her on social media and my phone gave me a little peace, but it was short-lived. She just kept going, using other family members as messengers. I am overwhelmed, heartbroken, and utterly lost. This was supposed to be a joyful time in my life, but the chaos she created left me feeling confused about what to do next. I feel so stuck in the middle of this mess, and I don't even know how to move forward. Any advice? Date 1. The fallout since my last post has been intense. I knew things were bad, but I never imagined just how messy this situation would get. Yesterday, Ross officially filed for divorce from Jenny, and everything came to a head. Ross's announcement hit everyone hard, but the worst part was when the whole truth about Jenny's pregnancy came to light. It turned out that Jenny had been having an affair with her personal trainer for the past 8 months. She thought she could pass off the pregnancy as Ross's child, assuming he'd be none the wiser. She had no idea about his vasectomy, and it backfired in the worst way. The trainer, as it turns out, is married with 3 young kids of his own. When everything came crashing down, his wife found out too. The wife, someone I'd never met or even heard of before, actually reached out to me on Facebook. Her message was a total surprise, but I could tell right away that she was kind-hearted. She apologized to me for her husband's role in this disaster, expressing how hurt and blindsided she felt. She told me she was filing for divorce as well, and we ended up having a long conversation, sharing our stories. In a weird way, it was comforting to talk to someone who was also affected by this tangled mess, even if I hadn't met her before. Neither of us deserved to be pulled into this, yet here we were, both trying to make sense of it. Since Ross filed for divorce, the family has been completely split over the whole issue. Some are supportive of Ross, saying that Jenny's betrayal is unforgivable, especially because she lied about something as huge as a pregnancy. Others, surprisingly, have started taking Jenny's side. They argue that Ross's secret vasectomy somehow pushed her into this. They seem to think that if he'd been open about his choice not to have kids, Jenny might not have felt so desperate. This caused a lot of tension between family members, and honestly, I don't know how they're managing to take sides in something so complicated and hurtful. Meanwhile, Joe has been my rock through all of this. He's been amazing at shielding me from the family drama as much as possible and keeping my stress to a minimum. He's made it clear to everyone that his top priority right now is keeping me and our baby safe and as stress-free as possible. Every time family members start trying to drag me into the drama, Joe firmly steps in and shuts it down. It's been a relief to have him by my side, handling everything with such care, but it's heartbreaking to watch him deal with the pain of seeing his family torn apart. Jenny, on the other hand, hasn't let up. She's moved in with my in-laws for now, and she's been telling anyone who will listen that my pregnancy announcement is the reason her marriage fell apart. In her mind, she thinks that if I hadn't gotten pregnant first, she wouldn't have felt pressured to take desperate measures. As she puts it, it's frustrating because my pregnancy had nothing to do with the choices she made or the secrets she kept. But she's trying to spin the story so that I'm somehow responsible for the situation. Even worse, she's telling her parents and some of Joe's extended family that I deliberately tried to outshine her with my baby news, which couldn't be further from the truth. Joe's parents have been caught in the middle. They've asked the entire family to give Jenny some space while she processes everything. My in-laws are devastated and confused, and I can see how hard they're trying to support both Ross and Jenny. They've always seen themselves as a close, supportive family, so this has turned their world upside down. I can't blame them for struggling to balance everything, but I wish they wouldn't let Jenny's stories get under their skin so easily. It hurts to watch them feel torn between loyalty to Jenny and the reality of what she's done. To make things even stranger, some of Joe's cousins have started acting weird around me. A few of them even reached out, hinting that maybe I should have waited a little longer to have a baby. The implication was that my timing was somehow selfish or inconsiderate because I didn't know what Jenny and Ross were going through. It's infuriating. I can't believe that anyone would expect me to plan my life around another couple's private struggles. Joe has had to step in and set the record straight more than once, reminding everyone that we had no idea about Ross's vasectomy or Jenny's affair. We were just living our lives, excited to start a family, and we never expected it to cause this kind of chaos. Every time I turn around, it seems like there's more fallout from this mess. Even my doctor has cautioned me to watch my stress levels because of how this could affect the baby. She suggested I try to keep things as peaceful as possible, which feels almost impossible with everything going on. Joe and I have been spending more time alone, going on quiet walks and planning the nursery to try and keep my spirits up. But no matter how hard we try to focus on our little family, Jenny keeps pulling us back into her drama. As if all of this wasn't enough, I heard from my mother-in-law that Jenny's trainer was actually someone she met through a mutual friend, and she'd been taking sessions with him at a nearby gym. They'd been secretly seeing each other outside of her training sessions, and apparently, Jenny had even told a few of her close friends that she thought the trainer understood her better than Ross did. It's bizarre to think that she was sharing this double life with people while pretending everything was perfect with Ross. Jenny's behavior has gotten more erratic too. She's been calling my mother-in-law at all hours, crying and begging her to convince Ross to reconsider the divorce. She seems to think that if she can convince everyone that her affair was just a mistake brought on by the pressure of my pregnancy, she'll get the support she needs. She's told her parents that Ross's vasectomy was a betrayal, as though that makes her own choices more justifiable. It's exhausting to see how far she's willing to go to dodge responsibility. Now I'm at a loss for what to do. I want to focus on my pregnancy and prepare for the arrival of our baby, but the family drama feels all-consuming. Joe has been so strong for both of us, but I can see this is weighing heavily on him. He's torn between wanting to support his sister and recognizing that she crossed serious lines. The family gatherings we once enjoyed now feel like battlegrounds, with everyone walking on eggshells and whispering about whose side they're on. I feel like I'm living in a soap opera I never wanted to be a part of. All I wanted was a joyful time preparing to bring our baby into the world, and instead, I'm dealing with accusations, divided family members, and the stress of watching my in-laws suffer. I don't know how to move forward or how to avoid getting sucked further into the situation. It's overwhelming, and I just wish I could put a pause on everything and get some clarity. I'm feeling stuck, and I have no idea how to fix it. Update 2. Things have spiraled even further since my last update, and I'm at a loss as to how any of this could be real. Just when I thought the family drama had reached its peak, Jenny's personal trainer made a surprise appearance in the situation, but it wasn't anything like what Jenny had probably hoped for. A few days ago, the trainer sent Joe a direct message on social media, essentially throwing Jenny under the bus. He claimed she had lied to him for months, saying she was already divorced and that Ross was just her ex-husband. He said he'd had no idea she was still married the entire time they were involved, and now he's understandably furious with her for putting him in the middle of this mess without his knowledge. This news has caused yet another rift in the family. Those who had been giving Jenny the benefit of the doubt, saying that Ross's secret vasectomy drove her to act out, suddenly started to see the depth of her deception. Her own actions, especially lying to the trainer about being divorced, were starting to look less like a desperate one-time mistake and more like a calculated plan. The trainer's wife also sent Joe a bunch of screenshots that showed Jenny had been actively pursuing her husband well before I even announced my pregnancy. She'd apparently started flirting with him and making suggestive comments as soon as she'd signed up with him for training. These screenshots have been shared among some family members, and it's completely changed the narrative. Jenny had told everyone that she felt pressured and desperate to have a baby because of my pregnancy announcement, but the messages showed she was planning her own thing long before that. It's become clear to everyone that this mess didn't happen because of my pregnancy. It was Jenny's choices all along. It's painful to see the truth come out this way, but at least it's helping some family members understand that this had nothing to do with Joe and me. While all of this is going on, Ross's lawyer contacted Joe and me because Jenny is apparently trying to use my pregnancy as part of her divorce defense. She's been telling everyone that my announcement led to emotional distress that supposedly pushed her into these decisions. Her lawyer is somehow trying to work this angle to get her a better settlement, which is absolutely senseless. Our family lawyer assured us that this argument would never hold up in court. Still, he advised us to keep copies of all the messages, social media posts, and anything Jenny has been spreading about us. It feels bizarre to be advised to document my pregnancy as though it were some kind of incident, but here we are. In an especially shocking twist, we found out that the trainer isn't even the father of Jenny's baby. Ross, who's completely done with the situation, didn't even care to ask who the father was, but when he heard from the trainer, he was floored. Apparently, Jenny's trainer demanded a paternity test after finding out she was still married, and it came back negative. Jenny's explanation to her parents was vague at best. She tried saying that she was confused and couldn't remember exactly when her pregnancy started. But given the messages that have come to light, most of us suspect that she might have been involved with more than just the trainer. It's been incredibly awkward because now people are speculating about who the father might be, and Jenny isn't giving anyone a straight answer. My mother-in-law is devastated, especially since she'd already started picking out baby clothes and toys, thinking she'd soon have a second grandchild. She's been putting on a brave face, but I can see how heartbroken she is, especially after all the hope she had invested in Jenny's pregnancy. To make things worse, she has to deal with people asking her uncomfortable questions every day. Family, friends, and neighbors who heard about Jenny's pregnancy before all this blew up have been congratulating her and asking about the baby, not knowing the reality behind it all. It's a painful reminder of everything that's fallen apart. Things took an even more bizarre turn when Jenny decided to post a long, emotional rant on social media. In her post, she poured out a sob story about how everyone had turned against her, claiming she was being abandoned by her family at a time when she needed them the most. She painted herself as the victim, saying that she made a mistake because of intense emotional pressure, especially after seeing me announce my pregnancy. According to her, she was going through a dark time and made bad choices, but her family's reaction has been unforgivable. She even implied that she was being cast aside by people who were supposed to care about her. Her post stirred up quite a reaction. Some of her friends and acquaintances were quick to sympathize with her, leaving comments like, "Stay strong," and "Real family wouldn't abandon you like that." Others weren't so kind, calling her out for blaming her actions on everyone but herself. One commenter even asked, "Are you seriously blaming someone else's pregnancy for cheating on your husband? Grow up." Her post quickly turned into a battleground of opinions, and now it feels like the drama has spilled into every corner of our lives. To make things even more surreal, Jenny's post attracted the attention of her trainer's wife, who left a comment basically confirming everything that happened and calling out Jenny's lies. She exposed Jenny's initial deception about being divorced and mentioned how Jenny had pursued her husband before my pregnancy announcement was even made. That comment sparked a whole new round of reactions, with people slowly realizing just how many lies had been told. Jenny's story started falling apart right there in the comments for everyone to see. The family's attempts to get through this mess have been painful to watch. My father-in-law has completely withdrawn, barely speaking to anyone, while my mother-in-law has torn between anger and heartbreak. She had such high hopes for Jenny's pregnancy, only for everything to come crashing down. She's tried to talk to Jenny multiple times to understand her side, but it seems every time they talk, Jenny just makes it worse. Jenny keeps insisting that the family doesn't understand the pressure she was under, and that none of this would have happened if she hadn't felt so left behind. It's frustrating because no matter how many times people try to explain that this has nothing to do with my pregnancy, she just won't accept it. Joe and I have been trying to keep our distance from the drama, but it's been difficult. Family gatherings have become tense and uncomfortable, with people avoiding certain topics or talking in hushed voices about the situation. Joe and I even had to miss a recent family dinner because his parents couldn't guarantee that Jenny wouldn't show up and try to cause a scene. It's gotten to the point where we're seriously considering staying away from family functions until the baby is born, just to keep the stress levels down. As for me, I'm just exhausted. I'm doing everything I can to protect my peace and focus on what really matters, but it feels like the chaos won't end. I'm just hoping that in time, this storm will settle, and we'll finally be able to move forward without all this hanging over us. Update 3. Hello everyone. It's been a while since my last update because I decided to take a break from everything for my own health and peace of mind. The past few weeks have been a roller coaster, and Joe and I agreed that the best thing for our little family was to step back from the chaos and refocus on what truly matters, preparing for our baby's arrival. First, a huge thank you to all of you who have been supportive and kind throughout this situation. A lot of you had questions, and I thought I'd answer some here. Several of you asked about my health, and I'm happy to report that I'm doing well. The distance from the family drama has done wonders for my stress levels, and I've been feeling a lot more relaxed. Joe and I have even been able to enjoy some quiet moments just decorating the nursery and focusing on ourselves, which has been a blessing. A question I saw a lot was about how Jenny didn't know about Ross's vasectomy, and honestly, I don't fully understand it either. From what Joe's parents have told us, Ross apparently had the vasectomy in secret a few years ago without telling her. How a couple can make such a major decision without any communication is beyond me. It sounds like Ross didn't want children and hoped Jenny would eventually drop the idea, but instead of being upfront, he thought he could avoid the topic by quietly having the procedure done. When this all came to light, it was almost as if Ross's secrecy gave Jenny the justification in her mind to act out and make her own terrible choices. The lack of communication on both sides was just a recipe for disaster, though that doesn't excuse Jenny's actions at all. One development I didn't see coming was my mother-in-law's shifting perspective on everything. Up until recently, she was heartbroken but still willing to support Jenny through her pregnancy, convinced that her motherly love could help salvage something from this mess. But now she has told us that while she'll still be there to help Jenny with things related to the pregnancy, she doesn't want any relationship with her beyond that. She felt a duty to her grandchild and thought, at the very least, she could provide support for an innocent child coming into a difficult situation. Meanwhile, Jenny has been going through her own drama as her divorce proceedings with Ross move forward. From what I've heard, Ross is pressing for a quick resolution, as he just wants to put everything behind him. He's asked his lawyer to finalize things as quickly as possible, refusing to negotiate on certain terms that Jenny was hoping to contest. Jenny has been pushing back, dragging things out, and even tried to bring up my pregnancy once again as a contributing factor to her distress, which Ross's lawyer immediately dismissed as irrelevant. Apparently, Jenny hoped to use her pregnancy as a bargaining chip to secure a better outcome, but it seems like Ross is no longer willing to compromise after everything she's put him through. One surprising twist in all of this was when a mutual acquaintance reached out to me. This person, who knows both Jenny and the trainer's wife, shared that Jenny had allegedly been reaching out to other men around the same time she started her affair with the trainer. It's like every new detail that comes out just confirms how reckless Jenny was. Knowing all of this has made it clear that her choices weren't simply about wanting a child. They were about seeking attention and validation without a thought to the consequences. While Joe and I have been keeping our distance from the family, we've had a few hard conversations about how to handle things going forward. We've decided that, at least for now, we won't be attending any family events where Jenny is present. Joe and I have also decided to set some boundaries with family members, letting them know that we won't be discussing Jenny or her situation anymore. We know this isn't the end of all the drama. Jenny and Ross have plenty to work out on their own, and from what I've seen so far, I'm sure there's more chaos ahead for them. But thankfully, that's not our business anymore. Joe and I have both agreed that it's best to leave their issues in their hands and not let it bleed into our lives. We're ready to focus on our own family and the peaceful life we want for ourselves and our baby. I'm so grateful for all the support, advice, and kind comments I've received from so many of you. It really helped to have a space where I could vent and get some outside perspective when things felt overwhelming. You've reminded me that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential, especially when it comes to protecting my health and peace of mind. Hopefully, there won't be any need for more updates, and we can finally get back to our normal lives, focusing on the good things ahead. Thank you all for your support and for helping me see things clearly through this wild journey. Goodbye, everyone. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Mom proposes to her affair partner she cheated on my dad with before divorce at my wedding, thinking that everyone will be so happy for her and to make my dad regret divorcing her. I never thought I'd have a wedding story that could rival a reality TV show, but here we are. My wedding day turned into an unhinged circus, courtesy of my mom. The fallout has been nothing short of karma doing its finest work. Buckle up because this is going to be a wild ride. A little backstory to set the stage. My parents were married for 25 years before divorcing 3 years ago. Growing up, my dad was the steady, hard-working type. He had a good-paying job in engineering and was always there for me and my siblings. My mom was more of the social butterfly who loved the spotlight. She was all about appearances, hosting parties, keeping up with trends, and making sure everyone knew how perfect our family was. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The cracks in their marriage became clear when I was in college. My mom started spending more time out with friends, and my dad started staying at work later. It was like watching two people drift apart in slow motion. But the bombshell came when my mom's affair came to light. She'd been seeing a guy named Rick, who, I kid you not, was her colleague. Classic, right? She tried to keep it quiet, but one of her friends spilled the beans to my dad. After some digging, he confronted her, and she didn't even deny it. She called him boring and said she deserved more excitement. They separated shortly after. The divorce was messy, to put it mildly. My mom fought tooth and nail for as much money as she could get. What she didn't realize was that my dad had consulted a good lawyer early on. Since my mom was the one at fault and dad was the primary earner, the court didn't look kindly on her demands. She walked away with far less than she expected. She's been bitter about it ever since. After the divorce, my mom became unhinged. She went through this weird midlife crisis, posting cringeworthy quotes about being an independent queen, while also constantly complaining about how hard life was now. She leaned heavily on my siblings and me, guilt-tripping us about how we weren't there for her enough. Meanwhile, Rick became a regular fixture in her life. He wasn't awful, but he always struck me as a bit opportunistic. He was younger than my mom, flashy, and seemed more into the free dinners and trips she financed than into her. My siblings and I kept a polite distance from both of them. Fast forward to my wedding. I was marrying my longtime boyfriend, someone my dad absolutely adores. He's always been supportive of our relationship, while my mom has been lukewarm at best. I think she resented that I was closer to my dad, especially after the divorce. My dad and his girlfriend Lisa were invited, and so was my mom. I wasn't really sure about inviting my mom and gave it a lot of thought, but in the end, I thought it would be better to keep the peace. A big mistake. The wedding itself was perfect at first. The venue was gorgeous. My fiancé looked amazing, and the ceremony went off without a hitch. My dad walked me down the aisle, and I could see how proud he was. It meant the world to me. My mom, on the other hand, looked like she was itching for attention. She wore this bright red dress that screamed, "Look at me," and kept trying to position herself in all the photos. There was also an awkward moment during family photos when she tried to nudge Lisa out of a shot. Lisa, being the gracious person she is, just stepped aside with a smile, but the tension was thick. Then came the reception. I should have known something was up when my mom and Rick walked in late, arm in arm. She hadn't even told me she was bringing him. She made a big show of introducing him to everyone, acting like they were Hollywood royalty. It was cringeworthy, but I ignored it. I was too busy enjoying the night to let her antics ruin it. But then came the cake cutting. My mom decided this was the perfect moment to grab the mic and make a speech. At first, it was the usual stuff about how proud she was of me. Then she veered off script. She started talking about second chances and how love can find you when you least expect it. My stomach dropped. She called Rick up to the front, got down on one knee, and proposed to him at my wedding in front of all our friends and family. The silence was deafening. You could hear a pin drop, My dad's face was a mix of shock and something else. Maybe pity. Rick looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. My bridesmaids were exchanging horrified glances. And me? I was absolutely mortified. I wanted to crawl under the table and hide. But karma, as they say, works fast. What my mom didn't know was that her carefully crafted plan was about to spectacularly backfire. Rick, visibly uncomfortable and caught off guard, rejected her right there in front of everyone. His exact words, which I heard later from multiple guests, were something like, "This isn't the right time or place, and I don't think this is what we discussed." Essentially, he publicly humiliated her in the same way she was trying to humiliate my dad and make a spectacle of my wedding. The aftermath was immediate. Guests were whispering. Some looked shocked, others distinctly uncomfortable. My new mother-in-law was giving me sympathetic looks, while my dad sat there remarkably composed. My mom, however, looked like she wanted to scream, cry, and disappear all at once. Little did my mom know, her dramatic moment was about to cost her everything she'd been planning and hoping for. Apparently, someone at the wedding made a video of the whole thing and sent it to her wealthy aunt. Now here's where it gets interesting. For a long time, we all knew that my mom was set to inherit everything from this aunt, who didn't have any kids of her own. And let me tell you, her aunt is rich. She lives in a massive estate, has a collection of antique cars, and has investments that could probably fund a city. My mom had been counting on this inheritance to keep up her lifestyle and, frankly, flaunt it in my dad's face. But when her aunt saw the video, she was livid. This aunt is old school. She values family loyalty and decorum above all else. She saw my mom's antics at the wedding as the ultimate betrayal of those values. It didn't take much for her to change her will and remove mom completely from it. Meanwhile, my mom has been in full meltdown mode. She's been calling me non-stop, begging me to fix this with her aunt. She thinks I can magically undo the damage and convince her aunt to change her mind. I told her it wasn't my problem and that maybe she should have thought about the consequences before hijacking my wedding. Of course, that didn't go over well. She's been posting vague, passive-aggressive things on Facebook about being betrayed by her own children and how family should always stick together. It's honestly exhausting. I'm just trying to move on and enjoy being a newlywed, but the drama keeps pulling me back in. My mom's latest guilt trip is that I failed as her daughter by not supporting her. She even had the audacity to say that if my marriage ever falls apart, I'll regret not standing by her. It's like she's trying to drag me down into her chaos. Honestly, I don't even know where to go from here. Should I just cut her off entirely? Or is there some way to salvage this mess without her dragging me down? What would you do if you were in my shoes? Update 1. Hi guys, many of you asked for an update, so here it is. To be honest, not much has changed since the last post. In fact, things seem to have gone a little downhill, at least for mom. Let me start by saying that this whole situation feels surreal. Part of me still can't believe my wedding turned into a live-action soap opera. But here we are. After the disaster at the reception, I decided to put some distance between myself and mom. It wasn't just for my sanity. It was also because I genuinely believe she needs to learn to deal with the consequences of her actions. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem to see it that way. One of my siblings, the middle child in our family, has somehow managed to stay in contact with mom through all of this. She's a therapist, which probably explains why she's the calmest and most level-headed out of all of us. While the rest of us have mostly kept our distance for our own sanity, she's chosen to stay involved, at least to some extent. She believes that mom is struggling emotionally and mentally and could really use professional help. Honestly, I admire her patience and compassion. I don't know how she does it. Through her, we've been getting updates on how things have been going for mom, and it's not looking good. In fact, it seems like things have gone from bad to worse. The drama with Rick, you remember him, the guy she proposed to at my wedding, hasn't just caused chaos in her personal life, it's now spilling over into her professional life too. Apparently, their relationship has become a hot topic of gossip at work. People found out about their romance, and let's just say it hasn't gone over well. It turns out their company has a very strict no-dating policy, especially when it comes to relationships between managers and subordinates. And as you've probably guessed by now, mom is Rick's manager. From what my sister has told us, Mom has already been called into HR and received a formal warning. And this wasn't just a gentle, hey, maybe cool it with the office romance kind of warning. It was serious. They laid out the consequences if things didn't improve, and losing her job was very much on the table. This is where things get even messier. Mom has been struggling financially ever since the divorce from my dad. Losing her job would be a complete disaster for her. She's been scraping by, trying to maintain her lifestyle, and let's just say her savings, if she ever had much, are probably running on fumes at this point. Speaking of Rick, he's officially pulled a full-on vanishing act. No calls, no texts, no nothing. He's completely ghosted my mom, and honestly, none of us are surprised. Mom, however, is acting like this is the most shocking betrayal in the history of humanity. She's been ranting non-stop to my sister about how Rick used her and led her on. But come on, who didn't see this coming a mile away? Let's not forget how this all started. She proposed to him in the middle of someone else's wedding, mine of all people, blindsiding him in front of a crowd. What did she think was going to happen after that? That he'd sweep her off her feet and they'd ride off into the sunset? This classic mom, creating chaos, embarrassing herself, and then blaming everyone else when it inevitably blows up in her face. From what we can piece together, Rick probably realized he'd gotten in way over his head. The drama, the awkwardness at work, the public proposal, it's a lot to handle, and Rick doesn't exactly strike me as the stick around for the chaos type. My siblings and I are convinced he blocked her because, according to my sister, she's been obsessively trying to contact him. She's called, texted, even emailed him, but it's radio silence. And instead of taking a step back and reflecting, she's doubling down on her victim narrative, like she always does. Apparently, in Mom's mind, all 5 of us kids should be rallying around her to help her through these tough times. She's been telling my sister that we're ungrateful and disloyal for not supporting her. Support her how, exactly? By fixing the mess she created? By pretending everything she's done is okay. She even took it a step further and went on a full rant about me specifically. According to Mom, I'm an unreliable, selfish woman who doesn't care about family. This is coming from the same woman who hijacked my wedding to propose to her boyfriend. But sure, I'm the selfish one. My sister, bless her heart, actually tried to reason with her. She explained how hurtful Mom's actions were and how they overshadowed what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. But you know Mom, she didn't hear a single word. Instead, she dismissed everything, saying I was too sensitive and that I should have been honored to share the spotlight with her. Honored? The mental gymnastics required to justify her behavior are truly next level. It's exhausting, honestly. Every time I think there's a chance she might reflect or even just pause for a moment, she finds a way to double down on the drama. She's so focused on being the victim that she can't, or won't, see the harm she's caused. On the bright side, my husband and his family have been absolute angels through all this. I was so embarrassed after everything that happened, but my mother-in-law pulled me aside and reassured me. She said that sometimes you just have to accept that family comes with baggage, and it's not a reflection on me or my character. Her words were so comforting, and I'm incredibly grateful to have such a kind and understanding support system. My husband has been amazing too, constantly reminding me that this is just a bump in the road and not to let it overshadow our happiness. Tomorrow we're leaving for our honeymoon, and honestly, I can't wait to get away from all this drama, even if it's just for a week. I need a break from the constant chaos. We've planned a relaxing trip with no phones or internet, aside from emergencies, of course, so hopefully, I'll come back feeling refreshed and ready to tackle whatever comes next. Thanks again to everyone who's been following my story and offering advice. Your comments have been incredibly validating and have helped me feel less alone in all this craziness. I'll check back in after our honeymoon if there's any more drama or resolution to share. Until then, wish me a peaceful week away from it all. Bye for now. Update 2. Hi guys. It's been 2 days since I came back from my honeymoon, and you won't believe me when I tell you what all has happened. I thought things were settling down after the drama Mom caused, but apparently, the chaos wasn't done with me yet. The day we got back, I was unpacking, trying to mentally prepare myself to get back into normal life, when I got a call from my mom's aunt. the one Mom was counting on for her big inheritance. At first, I didn't even know what to make of it. She asked me to come over the next day, saying that all my siblings, Dad, and Mom were going to be there too. I honestly hesitated. The last thing I wanted was to be in the same room as Mom after everything that had gone down. The drama, the betrayal, the whole mess. It just felt like too much. But her aunt insisted, saying it was really important and that I absolutely needed to be there. After some back and forth, I reluctantly agreed. So the next day, I showed up at her aunt's house, and let me tell you, the tension in the air was thick, enough to slice with a knife. Mom was already there, pacing around the living room, muttering to herself. She seemed like a bomb about to explode, and I wasn't sure if I was more nervous or just exhausted by the thought of dealing with her. She was rambling on and on about betrayal, about how we were all ungrateful and how no one really cared about her. Honestly, it was a little uncomfortable, and I figured it would be best to just keep my distance and not engage. Then Dad walked in, and I swear it was like someone flipped a switch. Mom's volume instantly doubled, and she started throwing snarky comments left and right. She had something to say about everyone. Dad, me, my siblings, nobody was safe. I heard her call us leeches, traitors, and ungrateful in the same breath, as if she were the one who'd been wronged. It was honestly wild. I couldn't even process how she was twisting everything around to make it seem like we were the ones causing all the problems. But here's the thing, her aunt wasn't having it. She's one of the few people who isn't afraid to stand up to Mom, and honestly, watching her do it was a little satisfying. She shut Mom down pretty quickly, telling her to stop making a scene and just sit down. I could tell that Mom didn't like it, but at that point, she had no choice but to listen. Once we were all seated, her aunt finally got to the reason she called us all there. She said she'd been thinking long and hard about what to do with her estate, and I could almost see Mom perk up at that point. She was probably thinking that her aunt had forgotten about everything and was about to announce that she would be inheriting the whole estate, or at least a significant chunk of it. It was like she thought everything would go back to the way she imagined. But unfortunately for her, things weren't going to go the way she planned. But then her aunt dropped the bombshell. She said that she had originally planned to leave the majority of her wealth to Mom, which honestly wasn't surprising. Mom had always made it clear that she was counting on that inheritance to help her out of her financial struggles. But after everything that had happened recently, the wedding fiasco, her behavior towards all of us, and the drama surrounding Rick, it was clear to her aunt that this wasn't the right choice anymore. So instead of giving it all to Mom, she announced that the estate would be divided equally among all 5 of us kids. That's right, 5 equal shares to be distributed after her passing. The moment her aunt said that, the room went completely dead silent. I don't think anyone was prepared for that. Mom's face was something I'll never forget. First, it was just complete shock. She couldn't process what she just heard. It was like her brain couldn't catch up with the reality of what was happening. And then it quickly shifted to rage. Her eyes narrowed, her fists clenched, and I could see her entire body tense up. I knew it was coming. The explosion. Mom completely lost it. She started accusing her aunt of being manipulated by us. She claimed we were all part of some scheme to take what was rightfully hers. She couldn't comprehend that her actions had led to this moment. So instead of taking responsibility, she lashed out. She said we were all conspiring to make her end up poor and alone, and that we wanted to see her fail. It was honestly ridiculous. She had zero self-awareness. But wait, it didn't stop there. Oh no. She started yelling at her aunt, saying that after everything she'd done for her over the years, she owed her this. That's when I had to bite my tongue to stop myself from rolling my eyes. Seriously, this is the same woman who threw a tantrum at her own daughter's wedding and caused all that drama. But to her, her years of beautiful behavior somehow made her entitled to everything. It was the ultimate example of how she always thinks the world owes her something, regardless of her behavior. Her aunt, though, was completely unfazed. She just stayed calm, probably more calm than any of us could have been in that situation. She simply said, "This decision is final," and didn't entertain any more of Mom's drama. It was like she had made her peace with the situation, and there was no more arguing about it. But of course, Mom wasn't ready to accept that. At that point, it became painfully clear that staying any longer would just escalate the situation. My siblings and I exchanged glances, and we all agreed it was time to leave. Dad left with us, and honestly, the whole ride home was spent decompressing from the emotional toll of the afternoon. What really struck me, though, was how Mom had turned on all of us, even my sister, who had been trying to help her all along. My therapist sister has been the only one maintaining any kind of relationship with Mom, and even she was accused of being part of some elaborate plot to destroy her. It was outrageous and heartbreaking at the same time. My sister looked genuinely hurt, and I think this might be the final straw for her. I don't blame her if she decides to cut ties completely. For now, we're all just trying to get back to our normal lives and leave this mess behind us. I'm focusing on work, spending time with my husband, and trying to rebuild the sense of peace that's been missing since the wedding. My siblings are doing the same, though we've been keeping in touch more often than usual to support each other. I wish I could say I'm surprised by Mom's behavior, but sadly, I'm not. She's always been someone who refuses to take responsibility for her actions and finds a way to blame others when things don't go her way. Still, seeing her burn so many bridges with her own family has been a tough pill to swallow. At this point, I'm not sure if there's any hope for her to mend these relationships, but I'm not holding my breath. Thanks again for reading and for all your advice and kind words. It's been a wild ride, and I appreciate having a place to share it all. I'll keep you posted if anything else happens, but for now, I'm just hoping for some much-needed calm in my life. Update 3. Hi guys, it's been almost a month since my first post, and I think this might be my final update. A lot has happened, and honestly, it's been so chaotic. I think we went through all the emotions in the book. Frustration, relief, disbelief, you name it. I'm finally starting to feel like this chapter is coming to a close, though not without some more drama along the way. Because of course we're talking about my mom here. After the chaos that unfolded at Mom's aunt's house, things went eerily quiet for a brief moment. I thought, maybe she's finally taking some time to reflect. Maybe she's realized the consequences of her actions and is working on herself. Silly me. Turns out she was just regrouping and waiting for her next move. This time it was my mom who reached out, not to me, but to my sister, the therapist. She's always been the one to give Mom the benefit of the doubt, despite everything. She's patient, kind, and somehow still manages to see the good in people. But even she was surprised when Mom called her out of the blue. The reason for the call? Buckle up, because this is a doozy. Mom got fired. Yep, after months of barely holding on to her job, she finally managed to cross the line. Here's what happened. Remember Rick, the guy she ambushed with a proposal at my wedding? Apparently, he got a new job at another company. Good for him, I guess. He came back to their office one last time to collect his things, and Mom decided this was her moment to confront him. And where did she do it? In the office. Because that's such a great idea when you're already on thin ice with HR. From what my sister pieced together, Mom caused such a scene that HR had to intervene. I'm not sure what exactly she said, but whatever it was enough to seal her fate. She was escorted out of the building, and a few days later, her termination was made official. It's shocking, but also not. She knew the company had a strict no-dating policy, and she'd already been warned multiple times about her behavior. But instead of playing it safe, she let her emotions get the best of her and threw away her job. Now Rick, he's already out of there and likely moving on with his life with no loss. Mom, on the other hand, is left with no job, no income, and surprise, surprise, no accountability for her actions. Instead of owning up to what she did, she turned to my sister for help. At first, my sister was hesitant to get involved, which says a lot because she's usually the one who steps up. But Mom didn't exactly ask for help nicely. Instead, she tried her usual guilt-tripping tactics. Things like, "I've always been there for you." Spoiler, she hasn't. And, "How can you abandon your own mother in her time of need?" It's classic mom behavior, and it doesn't hit the way she thinks it does. When guilt didn't work, Mom switched strategy. She told my sister that she'd even apologize to me if that's what it took to make things right. My sister said it was obvious from the get-go that this wasn't a genuine offer. It was just another manipulation tactic to get what she wanted. Still, my sister decided to help in her own way. She told Mom that she would loan her some money to help her get back on her feet. But that's it. No emotional rekindling, no weekly phone calls, and certainly no pretending like everything's fine. She made it crystal clear that this was a one-time thing and that she was doing it because she felt it was a responsibility as a daughter, not because she wanted any kind of relationship with Mom. Honestly, I'm so proud of her for setting those boundaries. It's not easy, especially when you're dealing with someone like our mom, who has a knack for exploiting people's kindness. After their conversation, I got a text from Mom. It was an apology, though calling it that feels generous. It was more like a vague acknowledgement that she had made mistakes and hoped we could move forward as a family. There was no mention of the wedding, the proposal, or the years of hurt she's caused. It felt hollow, like she was checking off a box rather than genuinely trying to make amends. I haven't responded, and honestly, I don't think I will. I've spent so much of my life trying to navigate her drama and protect myself from her toxicity. This whole experience has shown me that it's okay to set boundaries and prioritize my own well-being. I don't owe her a relationship just because she's my mother. As for the rest of us, we're all moving forward in our own ways. My siblings and I are closer than ever, which is probably the one silver lining in all of this. My husband has been my rock through everything, and his family has been incredibly supportive too. I feel so lucky to have them in my corner. Mom, on the other hand, has burned almost every bridge she had. She's alienated her own children, her aunt, and even her former colleagues. It's sad, but it's also the result of her own choices. At this point, it's up to her to decide if she wants to change. But as for me, I'm done waiting for her to become the mother I needed her to be. Thank you to everyone here on Reddit who followed this roller coaster of a story. Your advice, support, and tough love have meant more to me than I can say. It's been cathartic to share all of this, and I'm so grateful for this community. I think it's time for me to focus on the future and leave the past where it belongs. Thanks again, everyone, and take care. Now on to the next story. Story 8. My parents told me that they have spent my entire wedding fund to invest in my sister's flop business just a week before the wedding, after I had already planned and paid for it. My parents are pretty well off. They have a construction business, and my sister and I have grown up pretty comfortably. She's always been a lot more spoiled than I have, though probably because she's the youngest, and my mom had her pretty late. For context, I am 29, and she turned 19 just a couple of months ago. She, let's call her Lucy, is the textbook definition of a spoiled brat, and that's why she and I have never gotten along. I don't mind it either, since we are 10 years apart, and it's not like we have a lot in common to begin with. But recently, she's been totally insufferable, and in spite of her ridiculous, entitled behavior, my parents have never stood up to her or tried to discipline her. In the past few years, her grades have been slipping, and she's never tried to do anything about it. All she does is hang out with a bunch of her cronies and spend our parents' hard-earned money without a care in the world. She's either shopping or out with her friends. She's not taking her life very seriously. It used to get on my nerves because that's not how my parents let me live. They were pretty disciplined and strict with me, but with her, there were just no rules. Then, last year, she said that she did not want to go to college, but she wanted to start her own business. Instantly, anybody would know that it's a terrible idea because, first of all, she's barely qualified, and it's not even like her business idea was very new or exciting. She wanted to start a denim apparel business with her own designs, and I don't want to be mean, but they were not very original or even good. But her friends had drilled into her head that she was brilliant and this is what she was destined to do, so she was not budging on it. Eventually, my parents had to agree to let her start her own business and invest in it. It was probably the weirdest thing that they had ever agreed to do for her, and I told them that this venture was definitely going to fail because she was not even willing to take advice and was bent on doing everything her own way. That definitely could not have worked out for the best because she had absolutely no experience in business, and yet she felt like she was above everybody. Anyway, I warned my parents, but they didn't pay me any heed and went ahead with her plans full throttle. Eventually, I just gave up trying to make them see sense because it was obviously not going to work. So, I just talked to them about safer topics whenever I would meet them. Then, recently I got engaged a couple of months ago, and since then, I've been planning my wedding. I planned it with my wedding fund in mind, knowing that my parents would cover most of the costs because they had been putting aside money for me ever since I started dating my fiancé 5 years ago. But only 3 days back, they told me that they didn't have any wedding funds, and there was just a week to go before the wedding. The problem here right now is that I've already paid for everything. I've organized a huge, grand wedding because I had always assumed that my parents were going to cover the cost of it. That's what they had told me. I'm not even being entitled. For years, and even for the past couple of months, they had been telling me and reassuring me that they had the wedding fund ready, and all I had to do was pay for everything right now. They would reimburse me for it afterward in one go. It seemed believable and reasonable enough, so that's exactly what I did. If I had any clue that they did not have any funds for my wedding, I would not have gone out of my way to make this such an extravagant event. I've invited many people, rented a massive venue, and even the catering is going to be insane. The only reason I went all out was because I had assumed that my parents were going to be contributing to the wedding expenses. And, of course, my fiancé and his family are going to be contributing, but it's not going to be enough to cover the cost of everything. Neither do we feel comfortable asking his parents to contribute more than they already have because, unlike my parents, they are not that rich and have already done the best that they can. Besides, it shouldn't be their responsibility to clean up the mess that my parents have made. We have already been paying for a lot of things out of pocket, believing that we would be reimbursed by my parents. But now that that's not going to happen, we are finally realizing that this is going to create a huge dent in our savings. We cannot afford this kind of wedding right now, but like I said, it's just 1 week away. The invitations have been sent out, and everything has already been organized and paid for. This close to the wedding date, we are not even going to get any refunds, even if we do try to cancel, so that's going to be pointless. It's extremely frustrating because we had calculated that after we were reimbursed by my parents, we wouldn't have to worry about money. But judging by the situation right now, we are going to have to live extremely frugally and save every cent that we possibly can for the next few years to make up for this kind of expenditure. Obviously, I'm really mad at my parents because they could have avoided this disaster by just being upfront with me. But for months, even while planning the wedding, they did not breathe a word of this to me. They chose to stay silent on purpose because to them, their pride was more important than the practicality of the situation. If they had just been honest with me right from the get-go and told me that they didn't have the kind of money that they had promised me, I wouldn't have planned such a grand wedding, and I would have planned within my personal means. That way, nobody would have been hurt. But they didn't do that. They led me on and lied to me for months. Until finally, 3 days ago, they realized that they couldn't let this go on, and at some point, they would have to come clean to me. They called me and my fiancé over for dinner, and during dessert, they just dropped that bombshell on us and expected us to be fine with this. Their logic was that since we had already paid for everything, it's not like we couldn't afford it. I tried to explain to them that we had paid for everything out of our personal savings, hoping that we would be reimbursed, but now that that money was gone, we hardly had anything saved up for the immediate future. For some reason, my parents really didn't understand what the issue was and kept telling us that it was going to be fine and that we had nothing to worry about. I was still trying to reason with them when I finally found out from them where exactly they had spent my wedding fund, and after that, I knew that there was no point in talking to them. As you guys may have guessed by now, yes, my parents invested all that money into my sister's flop business. Lucy's business hasn't been doing too well, which is not a surprise, because neither is she very good at the designing part of it, nor does she have any business acumen at all. Surely, it couldn't have come as a shock to them, and when they realized that this was not going well, they should have put an end to it. But instead, they indulged her even more and kept giving her money to keep her business afloat. At one point, without even realizing it, they had given away my entire wedding fund to Lucy to invest in her business. And by then, my fiancé and I had already been engaged for a couple of months, and they had promised me that they were going to cover my expenses, so they couldn't bring themselves to back out. They told me that it had become a matter of pride for them, which is why they had kept silent for so long. But now, they felt like they had to be honest with me, and they actually thought that I was going to be understanding about the whole thing. So they were talking to me very casually, as if this was absolutely no big deal. At that point, I knew there was no talking to them anymore, so I just smiled and I told them that it was fine. My fiancé seemed a little shocked, but I guess he realized that I knew what I was doing, so he didn't say anything about it later on either. We left as soon as possible, but as soon as we were in the car, I told him that I was not going to let my parents off the hook for this one. In the past, I had always put up with them because, regardless of their behavior and partiality when it came to Lucy, they were still my parents and I didn't want to hurt them or let go of them. But it was becoming increasingly obvious to me that when it came to Lucy, they were ready to hurt whoever it took, and I was personally sick of letting things slide when it came to my parents. So my fiancé and I went back home, and then we made a post on all my social media platforms, putting my parents on blast for what they had done. I didn't hold back at all, and it felt like years of pent-up frustration and anger were just bubbling up to the surface, which was something that I desperately needed. So I made that post with every single detail of what had happened, and within a few hours, people started texting me to console me, and some people even offered to help us with our finances. In short, everybody was pretty upset with my parents, especially given the fact that everyone knew that Lucy was not well equipped to handle a business, and yet they hadn't thought twice before spending my wedding fund on her business and then going on to promise me stuff that they knew they could not live up to. After I had made that post, I knew that either Lucy or my parents would try to contact me, so I had already blocked them. For the past 2 days, they could not get in touch with me, but today I heard from my parents' lawyer, and he told me that I could either take down that post or my parents would be slamming me with a lawsuit, and I would have to lose even more money to pay them back in reparations for all the emotional distress that I had caused them with my post. He told me that he was calling because my parents had instructed him that I was to be given one chance, and if I didn't take that post down, then they would be left with no other option but to take this up legally and sue me for defamation. I was shocked that they would even suggest something like this, so I decided to unblock my parents and give them a piece of my mind after speaking to the lawyer. But that didn't exactly go as I had planned. When I called them, I had every intention of telling them a new one and letting them know that they couldn't just threaten me with their lawyer and expect to get away with what they had done. I called my dad's phone number, but instead of my dad, my mother answered, and before I could say anything, she told me very coldly that after I had put up that post, my dad had suffered a heart attack. She told me that they had never been humiliated like this on a public platform, and neither had they expected me to do something like this because it was a low blow. They told me that if I had such strong feelings about what they had done, I should have been honest about it and confronted them about it to their face instead of pretending that everything was fine and then going back home and posting about it on social media for sympathy. I was shocked because I had no idea that that's what had happened to my father, and neither did anyone else. I tried to talk to my mom and tell her that I didn't know that that's what happened to my dad, but she told me that she really didn't care because it had already happened, and I was the one who had caused something like this. So now I could either take that post down and apologize, or I could live with the knowledge that I had done this to my dad and try not to care about it. She also said that she knew that what they had done was messed up. They should have been honest with me. But if I had really considered them family and respected them as my parents, I would have been honest about my feelings. But now, they believe that to me, their money was more important than they themselves. And I don't know what to say about that. So I just hung up, and now, of course, I feel incredibly guilty about whatever has happened. The fact that a post like that could give my dad a heart attack, I had never even thought about it. But I have to admit, I didn't know that my dad had heart problems. I've been feeling helpless about it, but at the same time, I really don't want to go back on my word and apologize publicly because, for some reason, I just feel uneasy thinking about it. I talked to my fiancé about it a couple of hours ago, and even he was at a loss for words. So we have been finding it very difficult to come to a conclusion about what we should do. We do feel bad about what my father is going through, but at the same time, I don't think that we need to apologize for anything that we said or for talking about this incident in public. I am an idiot for not wanting to apologize to my dad for humiliating him on social media, even after he had a heart attack. Update 1. So I just found out that my parents made everything up. There was no heart attack. My dad is perfectly fine, and they lied to me just because they wanted a public apology from me so they could guilt-trip me into letting them get away with this. I can't believe that people would stoop to such levels, and I'm really lucky that I decided to try and get an update on Dad's health, because otherwise I never would have found out about their lies. 3 days ago, I had made that post, and afterward, I tried to get in touch with my mom several times because even though I was still upset about the whole wedding fund thing, giving somebody a heart attack had never been on the cards, and I felt really bad about what I had done. Even though I did not feel like I needed to apologize to them on a public platform, I had taken the post down for a short time after hearing about the heart attack from my mom, but now it's back up again. While I had been trying to contact her in the past 2 days, my mom had been rejecting all my phone calls and ignoring all my messages. Last evening, she sent a message after I had tried calling her 3 times in a row, saying that she was not ready to talk to me until I apologized publicly. If I was not ready to do that, then there was nothing that she or my dad had to say to me. I tried to argue with her, but she didn't respond to me. So, out of desperation, I decided to call my dad's physician. Let's call him Uncle Ron. He's not just my dad's physician, but has also been an old family friend for a really long time. So I know that even if my mother did not want to talk to me, at least he would know about the situation, and I thought it was worth a try. I hadn't done that earlier because it hadn't occurred to me, since I was quite distraught with everything. Anyway, when I called Uncle Ron up, I didn't even wait for him to say anything, and I just launched into my questions. I asked him a bunch of stuff about how my dad's health was doing now, whether the heart attack had been serious or not, whether he was still in the hospital or if he was at home. After I had gotten it out of my system, Uncle Ron just sounded very confused, and he told me that my dad was perfectly fit and fine and told me that they had met over dinner and drinks just the other day. That was pretty bizarre because I really thought that my dad was suffering, and I insisted on it until he finally told me that he was positive that my dad was perfectly fine because they had recently met, and even if my dad had suffered a heart attack since then, he would have definitely told him about it, but he hadn't. He told me that I must be confused, and since my wedding is coming up, I'm probably just frazzled. And then he hung up. He probably did figure things out on his own but didn't bring it up because it was only going to lead to drama, and I'm really thankful for that. But after speaking to Uncle Ron, I decided to go visit my parents and see for myself if my dad was actually fine or not, because this was getting ridiculous and confusing now. It was a great deal of trouble because I'm getting married tomorrow, and today my fiancé and I had to drive to the hotel in the morning, but I still made the trip to my parents' house just to confirm what I already knew. I hadn't done that earlier because I had been busy with all the last-minute wedding prep, and also because I was kind of afraid of seeing my dad in a bad state, knowing that I would be responsible for it. After my conversation with Uncle Ron, though, I knew that I had to go in. Just as I had expected, my dad was completely fine. I guess my mom hadn't expected me to show up, so when I rang the doorbell, she refused to open it. But then I told her that I was not going to leave until she let me see my dad. She tried to argue with me, but I just kept banging on the door until she finally opened it, looking very annoyed, and told me that I had no right to harass them like this. But I didn't care. I just pushed past her and walked in, and there my dad was, in the bedroom, looking perfectly healthy and sipping on wine while working. As soon as he saw me, he started fumbling and tried to tell me that it had been a while since his heart attack so he could drink now, and regardless of that, he was feeling much better. My mom also came up to me and told me that it was really disgusting of me that I had come all the way here to actually confirm whether they had been lying about the heart attack or not. But deep down, I knew that they had. Right from the way that they were speaking, I could just sense that they had been lying all along, and now they could try to live up to that, but there was no point now that I knew the truth. I was so disgusted that I just walked out without even saying anything. I went back home, unarchived the post that I had made, and just tried to calm down to the best of my abilities. After the whole incident with the wedding fund, my expectations with my parents have been pretty low already. I did not think that they were wonderful people. I already knew that. But this recent thing, lying about the heart attack and stuff, that was just disgusting. I cannot imagine something more vile than that, and the fact that they only wanted an apology from me, which is why they lied about something as big as this, I can't even wrap my head around it. Obviously, I feel bad that my parents turned out to be like this, even though I'm not really shocked. They had always been very concerned about their image and reputation and stuff, so naturally, they could not stomach it when I posted about the whole wedding fund thing on a public platform, because it must have been quite humiliating for them, even though they totally deserved it for lying to me for so many months and creating so much trouble for me even before that. I knew that they had a favorite, and it was Lucy, and they always went out of their way for her. But I never let it hurt me too much because I knew that she was a lot younger than me, and my mom had her when she was in her late 30s, so she had taken quite a risk giving birth to her, and I tried not to hold a grudge against them. I had always tried to be a good daughter to them, but yesterday, I just realized that there was no point. They were never going to be good parents to me, and I was done. After I put that post back up, I spoke to my fiancé about everything, and he comforted me and decided to just focus on the wedding for now. We are in the hotel right now. We drove here in the morning, and most of the guests have also arrived by now. We spent the entire evening entertaining our guests, and that helped me take my mind off of things. But now that my fiancé is asleep and I'm alone in my room, I just felt like I needed to vent things out so that I don't feel perturbed by any of this tomorrow. Because tomorrow is the day that I have waited for so many months now, and I don't want to let anything ruin it. All the worries that I have about my life, about my finances, and everything else, that can be the day after tomorrow, but my wedding day is going to be all about me and my fiancé. So I'm just getting everything off my chest right now, and honestly, it feels good. I know that the circumstances under which my fiancé and I are getting married are not exactly ideal. We have a lot to worry about in the future, but for some reason, knowing that I'm going to be spending the rest of my life with him, everything just seems a bit less bleak. So that's what I'm holding on to. That's what's keeping me sane. Update 2. Hi guys. I got married 3 days ago, and it was honestly one of the best days of my life. I had spoken about how I had planned everything extravagantly and invited a bunch of people, and of course, everyone attended in spite of the drama surrounding my wedding. Everyone remembered the post that I had made, and there were a few references to it, but thankfully nobody made that whole day about that or discussed the drama at length with me, at least. People were respectful. Nobody brought up the fact that my parents and my sister were absent, and it wasn't even awkward. In short, I had a lot of fun, and everything went smoothly. But the best part was that I didn't even have to worry about my finances anymore because of my wedding gift. So the thing is, nobody stuck to the registry, and I think for once, a bride is going to be more than happy that they didn't. Instead of the gifts, all my relatives who had read my post about my parents decided to contribute and pull their money together to write me a check for a huge amount of money that's definitely going to cover the cost of the wedding. It wasn't a big deal for most of my relatives because I come from a generally wealthy family. But even then, for them to do something like this was so incredibly heartwarming that both my husband and I ended up tearing up at the gesture. I don't have to worry about my finances anymore because of their generosity, and they didn't even make me feel like it was charity or something. It felt like there were a bunch of people who genuinely loved me and cared for me, and nothing in the world can replace that feeling. So I would say that my wedding went pretty well, and I'm very happy about the way things turned out. I'm even happier that my parents and Lucy decided to stay away because for a while, I had actually been afraid that they might show up and had tightened the security at the venue. But as it turns out, I had nothing to worry about because, as it turns out, they had been vacationing as a family at the beach while I had been getting married. I found out about it from a couple of my cousins because Lucy had posted a bunch of photos of her with our parents chilling on the beach and staying at some expensive resort, and captioned it as much-needed family vacation to get away from all the drama. The funniest bit was the hashtag she had chosen, #NoTerFam. It was really cringeworthy, but I received the message loud and clear. I was not a part of the family anymore. And honestly, I couldn't have been happier about it. I can't do anything about the fact that I'm related to them biologically, but at least socially we can stay the heck away from each other now. Update 3. Almost 6 months have passed since I got married, and I've had virtually no contact with my family. The rest of my relatives have filled me in on what's going on with them, though, and that's how I found out that last week. Lucy finally shut her business down and decided to go to college to get a business degree. Maybe after that she's going to go back. But for now, she's out of business. I found it very ironic that this is happening after my wedding, when so much drama could have been avoided if she had just come to this conclusion earlier. Anyway, my parents have decided to send her to one of the top business schools in the state, and I'm pretty sure that they are buying her way in, because there's no way that she got in on her own with the grades that she had. She has been posting about it non-stop on her social media and has been bragging about how it's such an elite institution. It's very shocking that they seem to have money whenever it comes to Lucy, but for me, they were not willing to make a sacrifice. Again, I'm not shocked because that's just the kind of people that they are, and now that I have finally taken off my rose-colored glasses, I can see that I should have taken offense at their behavior a lot earlier than I did. That was my bad, though, but whatever. I'm very happy with how my life has turned out. My husband and I recently found out that we were pregnant, and in a couple of weeks, we are going to make the announcement. It feels like everything is falling into place, and I couldn't be more grateful for what I have at the moment. I know that after my announcement, my parents might try to get in touch with me, or they might try to do that after the baby is born. But one thing is for sure, if they find out that they are having a grandchild, and they definitely will, they will try to get in touch with me. But unfortunately for them, I'm not going to be open to that. I've moved on, and I have no expectations from my parents, so I think it's only fair for them not to have any expectations from me either. I'm in one of the best phases of my life right now, and I don't want to let my parents ruin it, so they're going to have to stay away for good now onwards. My husband also agrees with my decision, and that's all I honestly need. He's good, I'm good, and soon enough we'll be a family of 3. That's all that I need to be happy. My parents are just no longer important to me. Now on to the next story. Story 9. Husband wanted a baby to fix our marriage while cheating on me. So, I left and filed for divorce. But he and his family are blowing up my phone and begging me to come back. My husband, Theo, and I have been together for 5 years and married for 3. Theo and I met in college and we started dating in our final semester, and since then we had been together. We have had a fairly normal relationship with ups and downs like any other couple. Recently, after our 3rd marriage anniversary, he told me that he wanted to start trying for a baby because he thought that it was the right time to start a family. He was right. We were both in pretty great places career-wise, and we're in our mid-20s and have already been together for quite a long time, so it's a pretty good time to have a baby. I agreed, and after trying for a couple of months, I finally got pregnant 2 months ago. I was overjoyed and he seemed happy as well. But it wasn't until a week ago that I found out that it was all for show. Until now, the only people who know about the pregnancy are our families and a couple of close friends. But we haven't made any announcement yet. So, last week, when I saw a notification on his phone from a coworker asking if he was really fine with the pregnancy, it caught my interest because Theo himself had told me that he wanted to keep the pregnancy under wraps for a couple of months. So I didn't know why he had spoken to his coworker about it, and he was on his phone when he received that message, so I could have just asked him about it. But I had a gut feeling that he wouldn't tell me the truth. So, later that night, I decided to go through his phone. I had to snoop because it was just my gut feeling that told me that if I confronted him about it, I was never going to get a straight answer, and he might even delete all the messages, so I never would have been able to find out either. And I'm so glad that I decided to go through his phone secretly instead of just confronting him, because of the things that I found in that conversation with his coworker. I'm pretty sure he never would have confessed to it himself if I didn't already know the truth. I had to scroll up quite a lot to find out the context, but here's the deal. Theo had been talking to one of his coworkers about a new employee who had joined recently, and they had become quite close friends since he had been training her. Let's call this woman Natasha. Natasha happens to be quite attractive since I met her at a party, and I did not suspect anything off because my husband's behavior with her had been quite cordial at the party. They seemed to be good friends and nothing more, so I had no reason to doubt him. But after reading the texts he had sent his friend from work, I realized that he was just putting on a front so that I wouldn't suspect anything. But in reality, he was quite attracted to her, and he had talked about it to his friend in detail. It was quite gross because he had said things like he couldn't stop thinking about her even when he was with me, and even though they hadn't exactly done anything yet, he had confessed that he wouldn't be against the idea if she tried to make a move on him. And if you think that that's the worst thing that he could have said, it actually gets even worse. He had also spoken about how he had started to find me very irritating, and I had been getting on his nerves recently. In comparison, the time that he spent with Natasha seemed to be a lot more pleasant for him, so much so that he would end up finding himself waiting to go back to work every time that he would come back home to me, and he didn't feel like speaking to me at all. But he had to because I was pregnant and he didn't want me to suspect anything. He had said that he hated even having to sleep in the same bed with me, but he had no other option. His coworker has been trying to reason with him and had called him out on his strange behavior because it was really wrong of him to be leading me on like this, especially when he knew that he had started to lose feelings for me. The worst part was that Natasha had joined their workplace about 8 months ago, and I knew that because he had told me about how he had to help train a new employee and how annoying it was for him around that time. And if I'm not wrong, we celebrated our wedding anniversary 2 months after Natasha joined. So by the time that he had suggested the idea of starting a family, Natasha had already become a part of his life, and they had been friends. At the time, I couldn't for the life of me figure out why he would suggest starting a family with me if he had started to lose feelings. He could have still changed his mind a few months after our anniversary, but he continued to actively try having a baby with me, and all the while he was falling out of love with me. It was a betrayal of the highest degree, and I just couldn't figure out why he would do something like this to me. That night, I spent half of the night reading the messages and scrolling up as much as I could. And after I had read everything, I just kept his phone beside him and tried to go to sleep on the couch because I couldn't stand to lie beside him. But I couldn't bring myself to go to sleep no matter how hard I tried. And when he woke up in the morning, he was quite shocked to see me on the couch. I was honestly in a daze, but when he came to me and hugged me in the morning, I was so disgusted that I ended up pushing him away, and I immediately told him that he didn't have to act like he was in love with me anymore because I knew about Natasha. I had read all the messages that he had been sending to his coworker, and now I was going to leave him. When I pushed him away, he seemed surprised, but my worst fears were confirmed when he did not even try to deny any of it. He just kept looking at the floor after my outburst, and that was even more frustrating for me because the least he could do was at least give me some answers. I had spent the entire night thinking about what I would say to him, but honestly, when I had the opportunity, I couldn't do anything but just cry on the couch beside him because, unlike him, I was still in love with him and I wanted to make things work. But it was clear to me that it wouldn't be possible because I didn't think that he wanted to make it work. After crying for a good couple of minutes, I just asked him why he had decided to have a baby with me, especially when he knew that he was falling out of love with me, because I knew for a fact that by the time he had suggested starting a family, he had already started developing feelings for Natasha. And finally, that got him to talk, and he told me that he had suggested having a baby with me because he thought that this was just a phase and it would become easier for him to feel reconnected to me again once we had something to bond over, like a baby. So, basically, he had thought that having a baby was going to solve everything, but unfortunately, it hadn't solved anything. He had still continued to fall out of love with me, and he was falling for Natasha instead. I don't know if it was love or if he was infatuated with her because he was bored with our marriage, but all I knew was that he did not love me anymore. And because of him, I was now pregnant with a baby of a man who did not even love me, and it was just heartbreaking. After he told me that, he started to apologize to me, but I didn't even want to hear it. At that point, all I wanted to do was get away from him, so I packed a few of my things and left. He kept apologizing but did not try to stop me, so I ended up going to my parents' place, and once I was there, I finally just had a complete meltdown. I told them everything about what I had found on his phone, what he had said, and I told them that I did not want to go back to him. My dad was furious, but he kept his temper under control, and he told me that I was going to be living with them now, and whatever I needed to be brought back from my place, he would get it for me, but I didn't have to go back to see him again. My mother called up my uncle, who has a law firm, and asked him to put me in touch with a competent divorce attorney as quickly as he could so we could start the legal proceedings, because there was no going back after this. I had the good sense to take a couple of screenshots of the conversation between him and his coworker, and just for good measure, I had even taken a couple of screenshots of his conversation with Natasha. Although I have to admit, his conversation with his coworker was a lot more incriminating than his chats with Natasha because even though he would flirt with her occasionally, and she would flirt back, they never took it too far and mostly talked about work. But there's no telling what they got up to in person. Either way, I was not mad about whatever had or had not happened with Natasha. I was upset because he had actually said that he wouldn't be against the idea of cheating on me if Natasha wanted to make a move on him, and I didn't even care if it was a hypothetical situation. It was bad enough that he was even considering it. For me, that was as good as actually cheating on me. And let's not forget the fact that he had also talked a bunch of crap about me, like how he had started to find me annoying and how he had been pretending to be in love with me and suggested that we have a baby because he thought that would be the solution to all our problems. Basically, everything that he had done was unforgivable, and I had no intention of going back to him, but neither did I have any intention of giving up the baby or terminating my pregnancy just because the dad had turned out to be a jerk. I was ready to be a mother with or without a husband, so along with a divorce, I also decided that I was going to file for full custody of my child, at least until my baby was old enough to be left alone with his father. Worst comes to worse, I would agree to visiting rights, but there was no way that I was going to let him have partial custody. And these are the terms that I told my divorce lawyer so he could start the process, prepare the paperwork, and file for the divorce and custody of my child. If you asked me, I thought I had been more than fair because it's not like I had asked for any alimony since I was also a working woman and I made the same kind of money that he did. Neither did I ask for any settlement money. I just wanted a fair and equal division of all our joint assets. The only thing that I was demanding was child support because whether he liked it or not, it had been his idea to have a baby. Even though he had already fallen out of love with me at that point, and it was just a last-ditch attempt by him to find a point of commonality so we could still be together because he was too much of a coward to be honest with me and himself. He definitely owed me child support, and in my opinion, the terms of the divorce were completely fair. I had blocked him the day that I left home, and within a couple of days of that, he had been served. That had been around 2 days ago, and since then, his family has been blowing up my phone with calls and texts begging me to come back. I guess by now both his parents and his siblings have found out what he had been up to. Strangely enough, he told them what had really happened, and even more strangely, they think that it's still reasonable enough to ask me to come back to him. I haven't answered a single phone call from his family, but they still keep texting me relentlessly from several social media accounts since I started blocking them. They believe that he and I can still make it work because even though he had been thinking about somebody else, it's not like he had actually done anything, and until he actually physically acts on his thoughts, it's no harm done. I don't think they understand the concept of emotional cheating, but it's not my responsibility to explain it to them, so I haven't said anything about it. I know for a fact that no matter how hard they try to convince me, it's not going to work, and I'm definitely not going back to him. But the only reason that I'm here right now doubting myself is because they think that even if I don't come back to him, it's still unfair of me to demand full custody of the child because he wants to be a father as well, and the child is not mine to claim. The baby has his genes as well, so even if I don't come back for the sake of our marriage, the least I can do is at least entertain the idea of partial custody because he deserves it. And right now, I'm in a dilemma about whether I should actually consider it or not, or whether I should stick to my demand for full custody. So, am I the asshole for demanding full custody of my future kid because my husband had been emotionally cheating on me with a coworker? Update 1. Hi, so I have spoken to my parents about what my in-laws have been saying, and they have told me that it's my body, my baby, and at the end of the day, it has to be my decision what I want to do. Besides, it's Theo who screwed up, not me. So if somebody has to make any sacrifices, it has to be him. If they want to contest my decision for full custody, they are definitely free to do so. I'm not going to stop them or try to argue with them, but it has to be fought out in court, and I'm not going to allow them to make me feel guilty about what my gut says. I believe that it would be better for the baby to spend the initial few years only with me, and I don't think that at the moment I will be fine with co-parenting my child with Theo. I absolutely hate him right now, and I can't even stand the sight of him, so co-parenting is out of the question, and that's why I've decided that I want full custody. But of course, we are going to have to speak to a mediator first, and if we are not able to come to a conclusion there, this is going to go to family court. I think that's the only fair way of deciding what's right. I think they should let the legal proceedings take their course, and then we'll see what happens. That's what I texted them so they would stop bothering me relentlessly because honestly, his parents and his siblings, his 2 older sisters, have no business telling me what's right for my baby and what's not. I had a normal, civil relationship with his family for so long, but if they are going to pretend I am the bad guy for wanting to leave him, I don't want anything to do with them, and I definitely don't need advice about marriage or kids from them because they decided to support Theo. They have been trying to convince me that what he did was not all that bad because at least he did not actually cheat on me. Like I said, it's not my responsibility to explain to them that emotional cheating is still cheating, and honestly, I'm just too exhausted from having to deal with all of this to speak to them about these things as well. I just want them all to leave me alone, if I'm being honest. And the only reason that I responded to them with my message, I also told them that the way they have been harassing me online by texting me constantly from various accounts, even after they have been blocked, only reflects badly on them when this goes to family court because I'm definitely going to be bringing it up. I don't know if it's going to stop them from texting me again and again because it's only been a couple of hours since I sent that message, but I'm really hoping that it does because it's already very difficult for me to cope with what's going on, especially since I'm pregnant. I definitely don't need more trouble on my plate from his end right now. Neither he nor his lawyer has responded to our petition yet, so I guess it's going to take time. If they just had to agree with whatever our terms were, they probably would have responded sooner, but now I'm guessing that they don't agree. I've been very stressed out about all of this, but I'm really happy to have my family by my side. So far, only a couple of people knew about the pregnancy, and I'm going to keep it that way because the last thing that I need right now is a bunch of people texting me and trying to talk to me. Only my parents and my close friends know what's going on in my life regarding Theo, and they have all been there for me to the best of their abilities. It has been a little over a week since I left home, and a couple of days ago, I told my dad that I wanted to go back to bring everything that I had left and wasn't able to pack before I left. But true to his words, he told me that I didn't need to go back and see Theo. He was going to get it all done for me. So he and a couple of my friends went over to Theo's place this weekend since we knew that he was going to be home. They managed to get all the stuff back to me without any trouble, and my friends told me that Theo steered clear of them the entire time they were there, as if he was scared of what they were going to say or how they were going to behave with him. Lucky for him, my dad and my friends did not even acknowledge his existence while they were there. They were only there to collect my things, and once that was done, they left. I asked my friends if he had been acting any differently because I was really curious to know how this was affecting him, and they told me that he had only been around them for a couple of minutes and he just seemed tired. Apparently, it was very clear from the way he had completely given up on his appearance that he was not doing great right now. He had bags under his eyes and he hadn't shaved for quite a couple of days. Having been with him for almost 5 years, I know that he takes great care of his appearance, so I know that he is not doing well and I don't know how to feel about it, but I'm trying not to think about it at all because it's only going to hurt me. Whatever has happened cannot be undone. I have to look out for the future now. Update 2. So Theo and his lawyer finally responded to our petition, and surprisingly, they are not only contesting my demand for full custody of our child, but they are also contesting the divorce itself as well. I will be honest, I definitely expected him to contest the custody, but I really didn't think there was any reason for him to contest the divorce. After all, I thought that that's what both of us wanted. He had started to fall out of love with me and had even claimed that if Natasha tried to start something with him, he would be open to it. Obviously, that meant that he was no longer interested in being with me anymore, and after being betrayed like this, I was not feeling very inclined to continue our marriage either. So if neither of us wanted to be with each other, that obviously meant that the only way out was getting a divorce. I thought it was a relatively straightforward solution, but I don't think that's what he wants. I know that he's not doing this because he's still in love with me. He's definitely doing this because he wants it to be easier to get custody of his child. It was probably his family's idea because if he had still been in love with me, he would have at least tried to contact me or to apologize. I'm not saying that I would have accepted or I would have gone back to him, but that's literally the least that he could have done, and honestly, contesting the divorce is just going to be a waste of both our time because I don't think there is any court in the world that is going to be able to force me to stay with him, and I don't think that's how it works either. All it is going to achieve is just making the process of getting a divorce longer and more expensive, and I don't know what he's hoping to gain from that, but I can assure everyone that it's not going to work. I've already spoken to my lawyer, and he thinks that the most that he can get out of this is a couple of mediation sessions and maybe couples counseling at most, but if I stand my ground and make it clear that I don't want to go back to him, then we will have to be granted the divorce. And to top it off, I also have proof of him wanting to cheat on me, so I don't know what he's been thinking. Anyway, they had taken me by surprise, but I'm prepared to fight now, both for getting the divorce that I want and also for full custody of my child. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that everything works out in my favor, and I don't care how long it takes, but I'm definitely going to try my best to make sure that it does. Update 3. So it's been almost 1 month since I left home, and we have already started our mediation sessions. We have a court-appointed mediator, and we are going to first try to sort things out here, and in case it doesn't work out, which I'm trying to ensure it doesn't, we are going to head to family court. In my honest opinion, I think that's the only way to deal with this because mediation is just a waste of time. Mediation is for people who think they have a shot at coming to a common ground and avoiding court, but I really don't think that is going to work out for me and Theo. It's very obvious that we want very different things, like he wants to cheat on me, and I want a happy and healthy marriage. See, it just doesn't work out because we are so different. Anyway, things have been hard because I've had to see him in person a couple of times now, and it's difficult for me because the pregnancy has been messing up my hormones, and every time that I see him or think about him, I just feel like breaking down. So it's been very difficult for me to hold myself together, especially when I have to sit through the mediation sessions and stare at his stupid face. I've tried my best to keep my cool because that's what my lawyer has advised me, and that's what I've been sticking to. He would try to avoid even looking at me during the first couple of sessions, and that suited me just fine. But recently he had started trying to at least talk to me, but then we had to terminate those sessions early because I didn't want him to address me directly, and I only wanted him to speak to me through my lawyer. The last time that we had a mediation session a couple of days ago, he kept quiet throughout the session, and yet another day was wasted. But while I was leaving, He stopped me in my tracks and told me that he wanted to speak to me in person. I tried to dodge him and leave, but he just kept standing in my way and told me that he just wanted to apologize for everything and that he really didn't want things to end this way. It was just exasperating, so I told him that if he really was apologetic for everything, then he could show me that he was sorry by accepting my terms of the divorce and the custody arrangement and leaving me alone. That's the only way that I would accept his apology, and if he wasn't ready to do that, then he should at least just let this go to court instead of wasting my time and money. Then I pushed him aside, and I went back to my car, and I made sure to mention what just happened to my lawyer as well. A few days have passed since then, and today my lawyer told me that he had received an email from Theo saying that he was ready to accept the terms of the divorce, but he wanted partial custody of our child when our baby was born. So now I'm going to have to think about what I want and decide if that's a deal worth my time or not. But I'm glad that at least he has put this option on the table because I'm sick of fighting. I just want to be done with this, so who knows, maybe this is a good thing. Update 4. Hi. It's been a few weeks since I last posted, and I've been quite busy since. I've gotten along, and there were a few complications regarding the pregnancy, but they're all sorted out now. Anyway, my lawyer and I decided that we were going to agree to his terms. He gets partial custody, and we go through with the divorce. So that's what we have decided, and we have communicated to his lawyer as well. So all that's left is for the divorce to be finalized and all the paperwork to be done. Then we stick to the arrangement that we have decided. It's a fair enough deal, and honestly, I just wanted everything to be over. He reached out to me shortly after my lawyer contacted him and told him that I was willing to agree to his terms and sent me an email thanking me for everything. Once again, he apologized for putting me through all of this, but that doesn't really mean anything to me anymore. I'm just glad that I can move on with my life now, and I don't have to have anything to do with him anymore. It's going to hurt, but I'm strong enough. I can deal with it, and I have my parents and my friends by my side, so I'll be fine. Update 5. Hi. So it's been a little over 6 months since I last posted an update here, and it's about time that I fill you guys in on what's been going on. Last week, I gave birth to my beautiful daughter, and my life has suddenly become all about her now, and I couldn't be happier about it. Theo really stepped up as a father and tried to be there for me as much as he could, and since we were going to have to stick to a co-parenting agreement, we tried to be civil to each other. We don't talk about anything apart from our daughter, and that's fine with me. I have started my healing process, and I'm trying to move on from him. I think I'm almost there, to be honest, because nowadays when I see him, I don't really feel anything. From what I know, he has started dating Natasha, probably after the divorce was finalized. Good for him, I guess. Right now, dating is off the table for me. I just want to be a good mother to my daughter, and I'm completely devoted to that one job. Theo and I are still trying to figure out a way to make sure that both of us get equal time with her. But until then, he's going to have to keep visiting me at my parents' place if he wants to see his daughter. My parents have been kind enough to open up their home to him and his family because all of them want to see her, and we are all trying to keep it civil for her sake. Hopefully, someday in the future, things will be okay. But for now, this is good enough for me. Now on to the next story. Story 10. I think my wife doesn't love me and she might really be in love with her female best friend. I have been married to my wife for 7 years, and we met 8 years ago in a church meeting and we became friends. My wife is a quiet, kind, and beautiful woman, any man's dream. Therefore, it was obvious that I fell for her instantly, although she always behaved with what I thought was shyness, not wanting to cuddle with me or only kissing me on rare occasions. We both were raised in Christian families in a part of our country that is really religious, but unlike me, her parents were always the type who follow the holy doctrine really seriously, so she has a traditional way of thinking about religion and how women should behave. So I always thought that it was because of that her behavior is like that. Sometimes I think she looks like a robot. She's nice and kind with everyone, but a couple of times I saw her staying all quiet, staring into space like if she was dead. Over the years, I began to take it as something normal in her personality because she always refused to go to the psychologist and always said that she's just like that. Until 2 months ago when she found out that the woman who was her best friend in high school was coming back to the town. I never saw her so happy and alive. I felt happy for her, thinking that what she needed was a female friend. My wife never used to leave the house, but since that woman is staying in the town, she has been going out as much as possible. She became a different person, but not in a bad way. But she looks full of life, and to be honest, I never saw her smile as much as when she tells me that she will go out with her friend for a coffee. For the record, I'm sure she's not sleeping with her because she doesn't know how to lie. Her behavior with me never changed. I'm not going to deny it. Days ago I started to feel jealous of that woman, that she is the reason why my wife smiles so much and is on her phone all day. Out of pure curiosity, 3 days ago I entered her FB, and some albums were public. She had a lot of albums, and I found pictures of her and my wife during high school. That woman was hugging my wife as if they were a couple. In some of the photos, they were holding hands or looking at each other with bright smiles, which is something she never does with me. Her family hates gay people, although my wife never talked ill about them, but just avoided talking about the topic, which now makes sense to me. I don't know whether to confront her because maybe I'm just thinking too much, or maybe she's in love with her ex-girlfriend. The only thing I'm sure of is that she only looks happy talking about that woman. So I don't know what to do. Edit. I'm sorry if I write something wrong. English is not my first language. Relevant comments were the OP replies. Comment 1. Yes, she does love her friend because she's her friend. All I saw in your post was a woman being excited that a close friend she hasn't seen in years is coming back and that there was a picture of them hugging. I'm assuming all this paranoia is from your religious upbringing because all I'm seeing is 2 women are friends. If you should be asking anything, it's why didn't you see the clear loneliness your wife was feeling before this friend came back into her life? OP. I referred to the way they held hands, especially because my wife and I never held hands when we started dating. Every time I tried, she told me to not hug her or hold her hands because she doesn't like romantic things. I always respected her boundaries about that, so I did get confused when I saw her in pictures like that with another person. We do have a healthy relationship in feelings terms. When I notice she's off, we talk, although she never wanted to see a psychologist, but she likes to talk about why she feels weird that day but always ends up saying that that's her personality. We've been always close friends since we met, but it surprised me when I saw she actually likes being hugged by someone particular. Comment 2. I think that's pretty odd. Surely at some point your paths would cross even if you weren't wondering. Does your wife give an explanation as to why the friend wouldn't care to? I don't know many people who wouldn't want to meet their best friend's significant other. OP. Same, that's why I feel it's odd. My wife just says that her friend isn't interested in meeting me and closes the conversation. I feel that if I insist on asking the reason, we would end up arguing, and I always prefer to avoid that. I know her friend left the town to live in the capital, and sometimes people become elitist after living there, but that wouldn't make sense since I lived half my life in the capital, and while my family is religious, I was never the strict religious type, so I don't get why her friend doesn't want to meet me. Update 1. November 9th, 2023. Thanks for the advice in my previous post. Although I got few replies, everyone was very friendly. I decided to confront my wife and ask about the photos with her friend during high school. Everyone in the post said that they are most likely just friends and made my mind feel more at peace thinking that I was overthinking, but when I showed her the photos, she began to breathe fast and what I think was a panic attack. I helped her to calm, but then she got upset because I sneaked in her friend's FB. I knew she was trying to change the subject because she loves to do that, so I got serious and told her to talk. After a few long minutes full of her trying to change the topic, she ended up telling me everything. Indeed, she and her friend used to be a couple during high school and friends since kindergarten. They kept the relationship as a secret, pretending to be only best friends, until my wife's parents found out and beat her up, separating them. Her friend moved to the capital that year and they never saw each other again, but for what my wife said and showed, they never stopped loving each other. At some point of the conversation, my wife stopped calling her friend by name and without realizing, she started calling her mi amor, which hurt me because in all years of marriage she never called me like that. I asked her if she was cheating on me with her friend and she said that they never kissed or anything, but I'm sure she's emotionally cheating me. She doesn't know what that concept is, so she really believes she's not doing anything wrong. The reason why her friend never wanted to meet me or even go to our wedding is because she hates to see her love married with a man she doesn't even like living a lie. Ouch. I asked my wife if she loves me and she said yes, but like a best friend. Yes, my own wife just friend-zoned me. She cried a lot, saying that she's really sorry for lying to me. When we met, we really clicked as friends. And she told me that her parents insisted her to marry me so she could heal. That explained why she never liked to hug, cuddle, or do anything romantic with me. It wasn't because she was shy, but because she didn't like me. I wanted to lose my temper and yell at her. I wanted to cry and even run away because I was patient and empathetic with all the time she rejected my affection. And I felt alone. I've even been thinking for years that maybe I'm a bad husband and I was treating her badly without realizing it. Feeling insecure about my own personality. But she assured me that I was never the problem. I didn't cry or yell. I just left the house and came to my sister's house. We didn't talk about divorce or anything like that. I even think my wife doesn't see any problem with what she did with her friend. But I'm sure that I don't want to spend all my life in a loveless marriage with a woman that will never love me back. I'm sorry for the long post. I'm just venting at this point, but I feel like I wasted all my youth. I didn't expect it to update so fast, but I needed to talk about that. It's not like I don't feel bad for her. I do, but now I feel even worse for myself. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Has she tried contacting you since you left? OP. No, not at all. But at least for today, I don't want to talk with her either. Comment 2. You need to divorce her and go completely NC. You deserve so much better than that toxic woman who has lied to your face for years. I'm sorry, OP. OP. I'm sure that I will divorce her, although I still didn't tell her that because I want time alone. I feel empathy for her and always saw her as a kind woman. But the fact that she used me totally changed my perception of her. Thanks for your words. Update 2. November 13th, 2023. Maybe nobody remembers my 2 first posts, but I wanted to at least post a final update because I'm really thankful for all the kind comments and advice I received. They're helping me a lot. I came back to my house the day after my last update, and my ex-wife was there laying on the couch. The first thing I said when I entered was, "We're going to divorce." Maybe that wasn't the best way of saying it, but she had the habit of changing the topic when I want to talk about serious things, so I didn't want her to do that this time. She clearly didn't expect that and started to cry and have an anxiety attack, saying that we can't divorce, that I can't do that to us. But what hit me harder was, there's no point in us breaking up. The fact that I don't love you doesn't change anything. Which is true. I realized that our relationship was always like that, her treating me just like a friend and me accepting that kind of treatment. She said that she never cheated or anything like that, even if I explained again what emotional cheating is. I told her that she's not even attracted to men, so there's no sense in staying married because we're just not for each other, and asked her if she still loved that best friend, and she didn't deny it, but kept insisting that we shouldn't divorce. I can understand why she was so desperate, but it made me feel used. Like if I was her pathetic beard who she can always use as a shield for herself, or a dog who will always be happy with the smallest token of affection. I don't need her signature anyway to get a divorce, so even if she doesn't want to, we're 100% going to break up. I told her I'm not going to take her out of the closet, but if anyone asks, I'll just say the truth, avoiding the sexuality topic because I don't want people gossiping and assuming things that didn't happen. The land and basically all the things of the house are mine, and maybe I'm an a-hole for this, but I told her that I will not give her anything because it's all mine and I inherited the land from my grandfather. At this point, she just looked sad and defeated, so didn't complain or anything, although I will get advice from a lawyer to be sure. I told her that she can stay until December in the house, and she answered that she will probably have to come back to live with her parents, which actually made me feel bad because my ex-in-laws are not good people, but for what she said, she's still talking with her best friend, so luckily she's not alone. The conversation finished awkward with me just leaving. For now, I'm staying at my sister's house. I can have time for myself since she and my other sisters are out of the province for a concert. I didn't talk with my ex-wife after that day, and she didn't try to contact me, but I know that she told my ex-in-laws about the divorce because they wanted to contact me to ask why we're divorcing. But I just answered that these are things that need to be resolved only between her and me. So this will probably be my last update because I will go and see what happens with my ex-wife after the divorce. We don't have children. Sometimes she started talks about having a baby, and now I feel really relieved of always saying that I didn't feel ready. Maybe something in me was already telling me that she wasn't for me, so we don't have anything that ties us together. I've been going to the psychologist since I was a child, so I think that has helped me a lot to channel my emotions. Many in the comments said that I shouldn't have empathy or things like that for her, But we're both broken people that suffer from a religious trauma, and I know how bad that messes with people's minds and hearts. Some people in the comments were confused about why I stayed with her when she clearly didn't love me romantically. But I don't know, maybe I always justified her actions because somehow I felt identified with her. Maybe I have a hero complex, or maybe my sense of duty is too strong that I felt internally tied up with her and responsible of making her happy as her husband, even if she always rejected my romantic love. I don't know, that's something I will talk and work with my psychologist. Also, I received questions like why I married with her in the first place, and she was the one who said we should marry, and I was naive and young at that time, and because we got along well, I thought it was a good idea. For now, I just want a divorce and then spend time with my family. In general, I feel numb and weird. I haven't cried yet, and in the session of yesterday, my psychologist told me that he thinks I already grieved the relationship a long time ago, even if I didn't realize it. I don't feel like I lost a wife, but like I lost a close and good friend and company. Not a heartbreak pain, but a betrayal pain. Anyway, I don't want anything to do with her anymore. Maybe I'm being a bad person for abandoning her knowing the type of life she had, but I can't save a person who doesn't want to be saved, and I'm tired of trying. For now, I will just say goodbye. Maybe not to a woman I saw as the love of my life, but to a woman who helped me and was a good friend for years. I'm really thankful about the kind comments people left, even some mean ones, which make me think that maybe I'm too quiet with how I reacted. That's something wrong. I was never the temperamental type. I'm sorry if the update is a boring one and not about me starting my villain era. But that's not my style, haha. Thanks, everyone. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.